Chapter 56. The ancient god's cave mansion was located in the depths of the desolate ancient forest. In the vicinity, there were countless powerful monsters. The weakest one was at the spirit-severing stage. There were also monsters at the combination stage and crossing calamity stage every once in a while. Only monsters at the combination stage were suitable for Xiao Lingyu to fight alone. Those at the spirit-severing stage were too weak. Monsters at the crossing calamity stage were a little stronger for Xiao Lingyu. After all, he just came out to experience. He didn't want to use the phoenix feather or the icy soul heavenly silkworm. The depths of the desolate ancient forest should be considered a very quiet place. The demonic beasts here were usually dormant, and there were very few fierce conflicts between the powerful demonic beasts. Usually, they would not interact with each other, and they would all stay in their own caves to cultivate. Compared with the cultivation of human cultivators, the cultivation of monsters was more difficult. Before they turned into human form, they couldn't refine and use magic weapons and elixirs. They could only rely on their own years of continuous cultivation to make progress. Under normal circumstances, if they didn't have good opportunities, their speed of progress was very slow. Fortunately, they had a far longer lifespan than human cultivators, so they had more time to cultivate. Human cultivators could use all the resources in the vast cultivation world to help their own cultivation. Only in the late crossing calamity stage would there be a heavenly tribulation test. After passing it, they could expect to reach the immortal world. However, monsters had to go through the transformation heavenly tribulation. When they reached the late crossing calamity stage, they also had a heavenly tribulation. The heavenly tribulation of monsters was usually a little stronger than that of human cultivators. At the same cultivation level, human cultivators had an advantage over demonic beasts in terms of magic arts and magic treasures. On the other hand, demonic beasts had the advantage in terms of the quality of their fleshly bodies, their speed, and their strength. Thus, the cultivators of the two races at the same cultivation level were actually on par. Xiao Lingyu was at the peak of the late spirit-severing stage. He was only one step away from the combination stage. However, his chaotic power was slightly insufficient, but the quality of his chaotic energy was extremely high. With the help of the best spiritual weapon and the chaotic seal, he had no problem challenging monsters at the combination stage. Even if he couldn't defeat monsters at the late combination stage, he could still leave calmly. However, ever since Xiao Lingyu arrived at this area where the trees were obviously taller and greener than the other areas, his heart had been pounding wildly. He could vaguely sense a powerful aura. In addition, this place was much quieter than the other areas, which made him feel very dangerous. Even the snake at the body integration stage seemed to be a little uncomfortable, as if it was very wary of the potential dangers here. Xiao Lingyu originally thought that there was a transcending tribulation stage or even a Deshang stage monster beast here. Just as he was about to leave with the chasing star, the monster beast had already killed its way over. What made Xiao Lingyu slightly relieved was that the other party was not at the crossing calamity stage or the Deshang stage, but at the combination body stage, and it was only at the middle stage of the combination body stage. The most important thing was that this monster did not look very powerful. This monster beast was not big in size. It looked like a leopard, but its whole body was covered with black and white spots. Strangely, there was a pair of silver wings at the waist of this leopard, and it also had a pair of blood-red eyes. Xiao Lingyu could be considered to have read a lot of ancient books about the cultivation world. In the 5 years that he had just arrived at the Feiyu continent, he had constantly listened to Jiang Lanhua talk about some strange things and common sense in the cultivation world. However, he had never heard of such a magical leopard monster beast. It was only at the middle stage of the combination body stage, but it could have a place in the depths of the desolate ancient forest, which was full of powerhouses. It could be seen that this leopard was not as simple as its cultivation seemed. I'm not an ordinary cultivator. Since everyone is not simple, and we have bumped into each other, let's compete to see who is better. Xiao Lingyu had the phoenix feather, the icy soul heavenly silkworm, and the combination body stage snake. Naturally, he was not afraid, even if he had a warning in his heart. The leopard did not give Xiao Lingyu too much time to prepare. It stared at Xiao Lingyu for a while. Although it was a little afraid of the chaotic aura on Xiao Lingyu's body, its strength and pride made it resolutely pounce on him. The leopard's wings flashed with silver light, and it directly appeared in front of Xiao Lingyu, as if it had teleported. Before Xiao Lingyu could get into position, one of the leopard's front claws had already scratched his shoulder. The shield formed by the chaotic aura did not block this claw and directly shattered. The sharp claws scratched a few bloody marks on Xiao Lingyu's shoulder, and fresh blood flowed out. Xiao Lingyu hurriedly dodged a few steps to the side, but he was a little shocked in his heart. This was because the leopard's speed was really too fast, and the attack power of its sharp claws was also quite strong. If his body had not transformed once, that scratch just now would have been enough to tear off his entire arm. It seems that it is a demonic beast that is good at speed, but its speed is really too fast. I'm afraid that ordinary tribulation stage demonic beasts would not be able to compare to it. Just this speed alone is enough to establish a foothold in the depths of the desolate ancient forest. Xiao Lingyu had a little understanding of the leopard. The contempt in his heart completely disappeared, and it was replaced with a serious expression. The leopard's first attack was just a test. After the test, it did not quickly rush over again. Instead, it squinted its blood-red eyes and stared at Xiao Lingyu for a while, as if it was trying to figure out the situation, or as if it was looking for a flaw or waiting for an opportunity. This was a demonic beast that was good at close combat. It was very agile and also very quick-witted. It was completely different from ordinary demonic beasts that were easily angered and liked to fight recklessly. Whoosh! The leopard moved again. Its two hind legs fiercely stomped on a mountain behind it, and it directly stomped that hard and huge mountain rock into a pile of rubble. Its body was like a silver sword, and it still pounced over at a speed that Xiao Lingyu could not prepare for. In the next moment, the defensive shield that Xiao Lingyu had just set up was announced to be broken, and an intense pain spread from his neck to his entire body. On Xiao Lingyu's bronze-colored neck, 3 deep cuts suddenly appeared, and blood immediately spurted out from his blood vessels. If the blood vessels on the neck of an ordinary person were cut, they would probably die on the spot. However, for a cultivator, this was only a superficial wound, and it was not a big deal. Xiao Lingyu only needed to circulate his cultivation slightly, and the cuts on his arms and neck disappeared without a trace. However, the blood that had flowed out previously had already seeped into his clothes. The snake was still hiding in Xiao Lingyu's sleeve. It had been using its mind to contact Xiao Lingyu, wanting to come out and help, but Xiao Lingyu had rejected it. Although the leopard was extremely fast, its cultivation level was at the body integration stage. Xiao Lingyu felt that he could still deal with it. He could not rely on other people's help whenever he encountered a little difficulty or setback. It was most reliable to rely on oneself for everything. The leopard should be an expert hunter. At this moment, it had taken Xiao Lingyu as its prey. When leopards were hunting, if they did not have absolute strength, they would not rush up to their prey and eat it. They would enjoy the process of hunting and play with their prey in the palm of their hands. They would continuously test and attack until their prey was physically and mentally exhausted and panicked. At that time, they would use all their strength to end the hunt with a thunderous force. Xiao Lingyu was aware of the leopard's habits, so even though he had been injured twice, he was not too anxious. Of course, the main reason why he was not anxious was that he had something to rely on. He had at least 2 methods that were enough to deal with this leopard. However, his cultivation level was not as high as the leopard's, so he could not lock onto it. Even if he used a powerful immortal weapon like the phoenix feather, he might not be able to hit it. If an ordinary cultivator faced this leopard, they would definitely run for their lives if they could not defeat it. However, this leopard wanted this effect. Once you started to run, it would follow you like a shadow. Because its speed was faster than yours, you would not be able to escape at all. It would also not give you a chance to use a flying Dharma treasure. However, Xiao Lingyu did not run. Instead, he made provocative gestures at the leopard, constantly waving his hands to ask it to come again. The more Xiaoling Yu acted like this, the more the leopard did not dare to act rashly. It narrowed its eyes and stared at Xiaoling Yu, seeming a little hesitant and confused. It did not know that Xiaoling Yu was very confident. Whoosh! Wrapped in a strong wind, the leopard was silent for a moment before it charged again. A silver light flashed past Xiaoling Yu's body. Xiaoling Yu's defensive barrier was broken again. The clothes around his waist were torn, and blood flowed out from several wounds. This time, it was the same as before. Xiaoling Yu was still unable to react in time. However, Xiaoling Yu could not let the leopard continue to attack like this. He had already begun to form seals. Red and blue chaotic energy intertwined at his fingertips, and a circle of yin-yang fish slowly appeared. The dangerous aura that seeped out from the yin-yang fish alerted the leopard. It did not dare to give Xiaoling Yu more time to prepare the seals, and immediately pounced again. A strong wind swept past, and a few bloody wounds appeared on Xiaoling Yu's face. However, his chaotic seal was already prepared. However, the leopard did not stop after this attack. Instead, it circled around Xiaoling Yu and flapped its wings continuously. Xiaoling Yu could only see the silver light flashing around his body. Even if he used his spiritual awareness to scan his surroundings, he could not lock onto the leopard. Even if he was prepared to counterattack, he could not do anything. This was the most frustrating feeling. Xiaoling Yu also tried to find the leopard's weakness. Unfortunately, he had not found anything so far. The leopard could not keep moving. When it reached Xiaoling Yu's back, it suddenly charged forward and stretched its two sharp claws towards the back of Xiaoling Yu's head. I knew you would come like this. Xiaoling Yu did not turn around. He waved his hand and sent the chaotic seal behind him. However, what he did not expect was that even though the leopard was charging forward at high speed and was in midair, it instantly turned around. In a flash, it was beside Xiaoling Yu and broke through Xiaoling Yu's defensive barrier. At the same time, Xiaoling Yu's shoulder was bleeding profusely. When the leopard's body turned into a silver light and landed in front of him, Xiaoling Yu's chaotic seal exploded. However, it exploded behind him and did not hurt the leopard at all. It was agile and changeable. It was as fast as a flash, but its attack methods were similar to that of ordinary demonic beasts. Its attack power was not very strong either. At least, it could not compare to a demonic beast in the Tribulation Transcendence stage. Xiaoling Yu had already figured out most of the leopard's characteristics. Since its attack power was not very strong, Xiaoling Yu did not need to be too afraid. He began to move and deal with the leopard. However, the result was that he could not touch the leopard at all. On the other hand, the leopard was able to hurt his flesh every time. Chapter 57. Since the other party was about to go berserk, Xiaoling Yu naturally could not dawdle any longer. With a wave of his arm, the phoenix feather appeared in his hand. A scorching wave of fire instantly burned the surrounding trees to ashes and swept back the leopard's two wings. The leopard was not spared. Although its reaction speed was extremely fast, it was too close to Xiaoling Yu. No matter how fast it was impossible to dodge the attack of the immortal weapon in such a short time. A wave of fire swept over, and the leopard's body was burned to ashes like the trees in the mountains. Even its nascent soul could not escape. Through that period of time, Xiaoling Yu had discovered that the leopard was much stronger than him. If he didn't borrow external forces, he wouldn't be able to defeat it by himself. After all, he had just cultivated for more than 10 years. Even though he had made great progress, his foundation wasn't stable. He hadn't even cultivated some spells or divine abilities. If he borrowed the immortal weapon Phoenix Feather, the battle would end too quickly. Even a Deshang stage master would find it difficult to resist the attack of an immortal weapon. Only a mid-stage unification stage leopard could not resist it. The leopard was fast, its attack power was average, and its defense seemed a little weak. However, what Xiaoling Yu did not expect was that the leopard demon had been killed, but its silver wings were left behind. However, because it had been attacked by the fire wave of the Phoenix Feather, its brilliance was very dim, and its surface was still emitting wisps of green smoke. Xiao Yu walked over to the pair of silver wings and carefully examined them with his spiritual sense. Only then did he feel at ease and put them away. The reason why the leopard was so fast was because of this pair of wings. Xiao Yu could not help but think expectantly. If I had such a pair of wings, wouldn't it really be like adding wings to a tiger? The quality of this leopard's wings is not low. To be able to survive the fire wave of the phoenix feather, it can be considered a rare, top-grade refining material. If I carefully refine it, it may not be impossible for me to use it. Xiao Yu did not look for other demonic beasts to fight again. Instead, he calmed down and tried to comprehend the gains he had made during this period of time. 2 days later, Xiao Yu took out the silver wings again and placed them in front of his knees to study them carefully. The damage to this pair of wings was not very serious, and there was still sufficient energy stored in it that could automatically repair the damage. In 2 days, the damage to this pair of wings had recovered by 1/10. However, what made Xiao Yu a little curious was that the energy in this pair of silver wings was very unfamiliar to him. He was sure that the countless silver light spots were the energy, and the silver light spots were not any common spiritual power in the cultivation world. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth were common elemental energies cultivated by cultivators and demonic beasts in the cultivation world. Wind, thunder, light, and darkness were a few special and rare energies. However, the manifestations of these energies were very different from the silver light spots in the wings. What kind of energy is this? Xiao Yu frowned. If he couldn't figure out the energy composition of this pair of silver wings, he wouldn't be able to refine this pair of wings, nor would he be able to supplement it with other materials. To put it bluntly, he wouldn't be able to use this top-grade refining material. He asked the serpent, but the serpent did not know either. Xiao Yu began to recall what Jiang Lanyue had told him about the structure of this cultivation world's energy system. He remembered that Jiang Lanyue had said that there were many types of rare and special energy. After a while, Xiao Yu suddenly narrowed his eyes and whispered, "Could it be the power of space?" Xiao Yu stood up abruptly and poured his chaotic energy into one of his wings. Chaotic energy was the original energy that built the universe. Any magic treasure or high-grade material would not reject chaotic energy. Even this pair of wings that might be made of space could be easily penetrated by chaotic energy. Under the corrosion of the chaotic force, the silver specks of light in the wings glowed brightly. Like hungry insects, they lunged at the chaotic force madly, constantly devouring it. They constantly grew in size as well. After devouring the chaotic energy, the silver light spots shone even brighter. The entire wing flashed with silver light, causing the space of the cultivation world to fluctuate slightly. In the process of fluctuating, Xiao Yu was delighted to discover that there were constantly tiny silver light spots flowing out from the fluctuating space and being collected by the wings. Phew! Sure enough, it's the power of space. Xiao Yu let out a long breath and said in pleasant surprise, "Space-type magic treasures were not rare in the cultivation world. Storage belts, storage bracelets, and so on were all considered space-type magic treasures. Moreover, these types of magic treasures were not difficult to refine, as long as the corresponding materials were found. Even with Xiao Yu's refining skills, he could refine simple storage magic treasures. However, it was very rare for a creature to have the power of space in its body. Space-type creatures were often very powerful and ridiculously powerful. Xiao Yu knew that the leopard demon was not a true space-type demon beast. This was because it could only use its natural wings to drive the power of space to increase its speed. It could not use the power of space as its own power. However, this pair of wings was definitely a very rare space material in the cultivation world. Its greatest advantage was that it could automatically absorb the power of space in the cultivation world. The leopard demon was not a space-type demon beast. Moreover, its attributes were not special or high-level. Therefore, it could only let its wings automatically absorb the power of space. It could not accelerate the absorption, but Xiao Yu could. Xiao Yu's chaotic energy could drive the power of space in the silver wings. In other words, he could drive the silver wings to accelerate the absorption of the power of space in the cultivation world. This could allow the two wings to improve and evolve at a very fast speed. I've struck gold this time. I'll first refine it into a simple space Dharma treasure. Then I'll slowly evolve it. After receiving the results, Xiao Yu's expression was very satisfied. He let his chaotic nascent soul out of his body in the simple cave abode that he had created and used the primordial fire to refine the two wings. After a full 2 months, the refinement finally came to an end. The silver wings, which were originally more than 3 meters long and nearly 5 feet wide, were now only the size of a palm. Moreover, Xiao Yu could easily store them in his dantian. This was just a simple refinement. In order to refine it into a very powerful space-type Dharma treasure, Xiao Yu still needed to find some other materials to assist him. These supplementary materials were very special. If Xiao Yu wanted to get them, he would have to go to those cultivation cities to purchase them. In the past, he did not expect to encounter such space materials, so he did not prepare them. After this period of battle, Xiao Yu had already stabilized his realm. Therefore, he had the confidence to continue improving his strength. Even if he wanted to go out, he had to improve his strength first. At least, he had to have enough strength to activate the phoenix feather. In order to improve his strength, Xiao Yu first had to complete another transformation of his body and soul. The last time his body transformed, he used the blood of the serpent to concoct the medicinal soup. This time, he could not use the serpent's blood. He had to use a blood with a better bloodline than the serpent. Last time, he used the dragon pearl of a flood dragon at the late stage of the spirit-severing stage. This time, he needed the soul of a demon beast at the late stage of the combination stage or the crossing tribulation stage. Xiao Yu was too lazy to dawdle in the desolate ancient forest, so after standing up, he began to move quickly in the desolate ancient forest in search of powerful demon beasts. This time, Xiao Yu wanted to directly improve his cultivation and realm to the late stage of the chaos nascent soul stage, so he directly filtered out the demon beasts at the late stage of the crossing tribulation stage. The reason he chose a stronger demonic beast was so that he could make greater progress after the transformation of his body and soul. Although the process was more dangerous and painful, Xiao Yu had the emerald green immortal pearl embedded in the phoenix feather, so everything was not a problem. There were really many demon beasts in the desolate ancient forest. Even the crossing tribulation stage demon beasts were not rare. Xiao Yu only spent 2 days to find a demon beast at the late stage of the crossing tribulation stage. At the peak of a towering, snowy mountain, there was a cold pond of unknown depth. That demon beast at the late stage of the crossing tribulation stage lived here. It was shaped like a centipede, and its entire body was snow white. There was also a row of antennae on both sides of its abdomen. It also had a pair of light green eyes that were like gemstones. When it opened its mouth, 2 rows of razor-sharp teeth could be seen. This centipede-like demon beast was no less than 300 meters long. Its entire body was wrapped in a snow-white shell, and it appeared to be very powerful. However, perhaps because it was about to face the arrival of the heavenly tribulation, its temper appeared to be very irritable. It did not like Xiao Yu, a human cultivator who had invaded its territory, at all. As soon as Xiao Yu reached the edge of the cold pond, it floated out of the water and pounced towards Xiao Yu amidst the rolling cold mist. Xiao Yu was definitely not a match for a demon beast at the late stage of the crossing tribulation stage if he were to fight alone. He also did not have the mood to continue fighting with his centipede. He first held the phoenix feather in his hand and prepared to defend himself. Then, he let the icy soul heavenly silkworm attack. Although it was also an ice-type creature, the ice soul heavenly silkworm would not be merciful. After it received its master's order, it released the tentacles around its body and directly tied up the late-stage tribulation-passing centipede that had just pounced over. No matter how the centipede struggled, it could not break free from the bindings of those thin threads. Xiao Yu then used Chasing Star, and sped towards the ancient god's cave abode. To cultivate, the safest place was still the ancient god's cave abode. After returning to the ancient god's cave abode, Shaolin Yu let the icy soul heavenly silkworm untie the centipede. At this moment, the centipede's entire body was wrapped in a thick layer of ice. Even a late-stage crossing tribulation stage ice-type centipede could not withstand the strange coldness released by the icy soul heavenly silkworm. Its body was frozen stiff, and its nascent soul and soul were completely sealed in ice. Shaolin Yu let the icy soul heavenly silkworm be on guard at the side while he activated the phoenix feather to release a heat wave, slowly melting the layer of ice. After the layer of ice melted, the centipede did not completely recover. It was unable to circulate its cultivation, and its consciousness was muddled. There were no signs of it waking up. Chapter 58. This time, the transformation of his body and soul was completed very smoothly. The essence of the flesh and blood of the late tribulation passing stage giant centipede allowed Shaolin Yu's body to possess a quality comparable to a mid-grade spiritual weapon. In the cultivation world, it was already quite shocking that a human cultivator's body could reach such a level. Not only was the body soft and elastic, but it was also as tough as a spiritual weapon. This was not something that could be achieved through ordinary practice. After the transformation of his soul, Shaolin Yu's soul had successfully advanced to the late tribulation passing stage after countless tearing and restructuring torments, which was also the peak of the late chaotic nascent soul stage. He could attack the chaotic convergent stage at any time in his realm. This giant centipede was called a snow centipede. It had the bloodline of a genuine immortal beast, which was slightly higher than that of a severing soul stage flood dragon. It was just that the flood dragon had the potential to become a true dragon divine beast, while the snow centipede needed to complete cultivation in the immortal world in order to advance to the level of a divine beast. Not only did the snow centipede have the ice attribute, but its body also contained a strong poison. Although the effect of using its blood to transform the body was very obvious, it was also very abnormal. The poison in the snow centipede's blood could corrode Shaolin Yu's body more thoroughly, and it could also make the transformation of Shaolin Yu's body more complete. The transformation process of the body this time was even more unbearable than the last time. If it wasn't for the fact that the emerald green immortal bead was an immortal weapon and had a strong control ability, Shaolin Yu would have become a poisonous corpse as soon as he entered the pot of medicinal soup. Shaolin Yu's body now also contained a strong poison, but this poison was not harmful to him at all, and it could also help him resist other poisons. Shaolin Yu at least did not have to be afraid of other poisons in the future, and he could use the poison in his body to deal with his enemies. As long as his cultivation was not at the late tribulation passing stage, once he was poisoned by Shaolin Yu's poison, only death would await him. The poison was also mixed with Shaolin Yu's chaotic energy. Even a great ascension stage expert would find it very difficult to expel the poison with their immortal spirit power. The snow centipede's soul did not contain a strong poison, but it was very violent. It tried countless times to break through the encirclement formed by the emerald green immortal bead, but did not succeed. Finally, it continuously exploded with Shaolin Yu's soul, and the two successfully merged together to complete the transformation of the soul. Shaolin Yu adapted to it for a few days and began to take out a large number of supreme-grade spirit stones. He began absorbing the spiritual energy and began to transform it into chaotic energy. His strength grew day by day until it reached the mid-stage tribulation passing stage. The higher his strength and realm, the greater the impact of energy the physical body could withstand. Shaolin Yu's speed of absorbing and transforming spiritual energy into chaotic energy was naturally extremely fast, but this also increased the consumption of supreme-grade spirit stones by a lot. Shaolin Yu had close to 3 million supreme-grade spirit stones, but by the time his strength reached the mid-stage tribulation passing stage, he was left with less than 1 million supreme-grade spirit stones. Although using supreme-grade spirit stones to transform chaotic energy was a shortcut, Xiaoling Yu still needed to have enough wealth. Even if his body and soul had the conditions to forcibly increase his strength, the method of transforming supreme-grade spirit stones was not something that just anyone could do. This was only the chaotic nascent soul stage cultivation. If it was the chaotic convergence stage, the number of supreme-grade spirit stones required would be astronomical, and the effect and speed would not be very good. According to Xiaoling Yu's master, when it came to the chaotic convergence stage, it was best to transform the immortal spirit power in immortal stones to improve one's strength. However, even if there were immortal stones in this cultivation world, they were pitifully few and extremely difficult to find. The cultivation had been completed. Because the power was chaotic energy, Xiaoling Yu's current strength was at least not afraid of any masters of the crossing calamity stage. Coupled with the phoenix feather, he even had the power to fight against masters of the Deshang stage. As for the icy soul heavenly silkworm, it could not be calculated because its strength was not clear to Xiaoling Yu until now. However, it was conservatively estimated that a Deshang stage cultivator could not do anything to it. After calculating this, Xiaoling Yu felt that it was time for him to go out and see the situation. He had to think a way to leave by using the teleportation array. Just as Xiaoling Yu was about to leave the ancient god's cave, the stone wall at the exit suddenly fluctuated, and then an old man in a black robe came into the ancient god's cave. This old man was not tall and was very thin. In his two deep eye sockets, a pair of small bean-like eyes and his thin lavender lips made him look a little sinister. I didn't expect you to be hiding in such a strange place. However, since you dare to kill my black blood demons people, you should be prepared to be hunted down by us. The old man said with a gloomy expression after seeing Xiaoling Yu. It turned out that it was an enemy who had come to find him. Xiaoling Yu immediately frowned. He did not expect that the black blood demons experts would come so quickly, and he did not expect that the other party could find this place. That old devil was too greedy. He wanted to kill me and steal my treasures, so he lost his life. Speaking of which, he deserved it. Xiaoling Yu was astonished for a moment, and then said happily without fear. This old devil's aura was rather sinister, and the energy in his body was of a higher level than spiritual power, but it was not a mortal spiritual power. Thinking of the other party's origin, Xiaoling Yu had already guessed the other party's details. The newcomer was definitely a loose devil. The energy in his body was demonic spiritual power, which was equivalent to immortal spiritual power. However, Xiaoling Yu could not determine how many tribulations the other party had. If it was more than 3 tribulations, then it would be too troublesome. That loose devil was blocking the exit. If Xiaoling Yu wanted to escape, he must go through a battle. Boy, if you can obediently hand over the immortal tool, I can consider sparing your little life. That loose devil did not pay attention to Xiaoling Yu's explanation and said very straightforwardly, "This junior is truly unable to comply. If senior wants to kill me, then you must be prepared to be killed." Xiaoling Yu said, while shaking his head. His expression was very indifferent, without a trace of fear. This old man wants to see what ability you have to spout such arrogant words. The loose devil was slightly angered. His 2 arms rapidly waved in front of him, and black devil palms filled the sky, wreaking havoc in the entire ancient god's cave. Then, like a torrential wave, they surrounded Xiaoling Yu. "Ice silkworm, attack!" Xiaoling Yu shouted as he held the phoenix feather in his hand. The icy soul heavenly silkworm had been hiding on the wall of the cave's exit. However, the icy soul heavenly silkworm had already learned how to conceal its aura. When the loose devil entered, he did not discover it. His attention was completely focused on Xiaoling Yu. After hearing Xiaoling Yu's command, the icy soul heavenly silkworm did not release any powerful aura. However, the devil palms that filled the sky were instantly shattered by countless snow-white threads. Just as the black blood demon's loose devil cried out in surprise, the countless threads suddenly returned and directly tied the loose devil into a white cocoon. Don't freeze him to death. I have some questions to ask him. First, let him show his head, Xiaoling Yu said to the icy, soul, heavenly silkworm. Boy, quickly release me, otherwise enough. Old dog, have you become muddle-headed? Right now, I'm the knife and you're the meat on my chopping block. You still have a mood to threaten me? Have you lived so many years in vain? Just as the loose devil revealed his head, he glared and shouted with killing intent. However, Xiaoling Yu cut him off and then took out the silver needle. This silver needle was a divine tool. However, Xiaoling Yu could not use it to display its divine power. He could only use it to stab people. However, as long as the silver needle pierced into the body, no matter what the other party's cultivation was, their power would definitely dissipate very quickly. If he did not pull out the silver needle in time, then only death would await him. Xiaoling Yu smiled wickedly at the loose devil. Then, he pierced the silver needle into the loose devil's shoulder. If he did not use some special methods to create some pressure for the loose devil, it would definitely be very difficult for him to tell the truth. After the silver needle pierced in, Xiaoling Yu patiently waited for a while. The loose devil's expression was first astonished, then terrified. In the end, it was as ugly as it could be. Boy, quickly pull out this needle, the loose devil said with his small round eyes. If you continue to have this kind of attitude, then just wait for your power to be exhausted and you will die, Xiaoling Yu said while stroking his chin. Little brother, I was blind to have offended you. Please forgive me this time. The loose devil knew that the situation was unfavorable for him. He immediately said to Xiaoling Yu in a low voice with a bitter face, That's more like it. I'll ask you a few questions. If your answers can satisfy me, I don't mind letting you go, Xiaoling Yu said with a nod. Little brother, please ask. I promise to tell you everything I know. The loose devil repeatedly nodded in response. How did you find me? Don't tell me you found me by luck, Xiaoling Yu asked with narrowed eyes. I used our Black Blood Demon's special tracing spirit mirror. As long as your appearance appears in the tracing spirit mirror, the tracing spirit mirror will be able to find the place where you have appeared before. The loose devil very cooperatively replied. The tracing spirit mirror actually has such a miraculous effect. Xiaoling Yu looked very surprised, but after a short while, he came back to his senses. There were countless capable people in the Xiuzhen world, and the Black Blood Demon was a top power in the Xiuzhen world. It was not surprising that they had some rare magic treasures. Besides you, did the Black Blood Demon send other experts to kill me? Xiaoling Yu asked again. The loose devil thought for a while and said, Yes. How strong are they? Xiaoling Yu continued to ask. One of them is a third tribulation loose devil with the same strength as me. The other one is a lot stronger than me. He's a loose devil approaching the fifth tribulation. The loose devil replied. Ha! Hearing this answer, Xiaoling Yu could not help laughing out loud and said, You bastard! You don't even make a draft when you lie. You just lost a combination stage disciple, but you actually sent so many loose devils for revenge. Do you think this is reliable? The loose devil didn't know whether it was because he was afraid of death or because his lie had been exposed, but his withered and yellow face finally regained some color, appearing purple and red. Indeed, so many experts have come, but it's not only to avenge our disciple. There's also a secret mission. The loose devil replied awkwardly. What mission? Xiaoling Yu asked. This is our Black Blood Demon's secret mission. It can't be revealed, the loose devil said after a pause. Chapter 59. Little brother, that mission is confidential. I really can't tell you about it. Besides, it won't do you any good if you know about it. That loose devil says with a bitter face. But I'm very curious. I have to know about it. Xiaoling Yu says unconcernedly. After pondering for a long time, that loose devil says with a sigh, All right, since you really want to know, there's no harm in me telling you. In any case, with your ability, you won't be able to ruin anything. This time, we came out to take revenge on you for a very small mission. If I hadn't heard that you had an immortal weapon, I probably wouldn't have come at all. Our main mission this time is to bring back 2 people from our devil school. It's that simple? Xiaoling Yu asks in disbelief. The loose devil's eyes flicker a few times. He nods and says, yes, it's that simple. I'm afraid those two people from your devil school aren't simple, right? Xiaoling Yu continues to ask. They're people of noble status in our devil school. There are some things that you'd better not know, so as to avoid getting into trouble. The Black Blood Demon has countless experts. A third tribulation loose devil like me is just a servant. The loose devil seems to kindly remind him. How can it be simple if it can make loose devils like you come out? I also know a little about the strength of your Black Blood Demon. You don't need to use the Black Blood Demon to scare me. If I was afraid of your Black Blood Demon, I wouldn't have killed your disciples and wouldn't have dared to capture you. Xiaoling Yu says in a relaxed manner. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't afraid. How many people in the Xiuzhen world would dare to say that they weren't afraid of the Black Blood Demon? Since you don't want to say it, I won't force you. Hand over the tracing mirror. Xiaoling Yu says indifferently, not in the mood to continue wasting time with the loose devil. What do you want a tracing mirror for? That loose devil immediately becomes nervous. It seems you're really old and muddle-headed. If I didn't take your tracing mirror, wouldn't you be able to find me easily? Xiaoling Yu says contemptuously, I can give you everything else, but can you give me the tracing spirit mirror? That loose devil begged. Xiaoling Yu furrowed his brows and began to think carefully. Even if he took away this loose devil's tracing mirror, if the other two loose devils also had tracing mirrors, they could still easily find him. This loose devil also didn't need to care so much about his tracing mirror. He could wait until he was released and then gather his two fellow loose devils to settle accounts with him. But this loose devil cared so much about the tracing spirit mirror on him. Perhaps they only had one tracing spirit mirror on this trip. Moreover, they also needed this tracing spirit mirror to complete the task of picking people up. Only in this way could it be explained. You only have one tracking mirror? Xiaoling Yu suddenly asked. That's not right. That loose devil first nodded in response, then seemed to think of something and hurriedly denied it. Well, that's the end of our conversation. Xiaoling Yu smiles, then uses his mind to instruct the icy soul heavenly silkworm to kill this loose devil. After receiving the order, the icy soul heavenly silkworm ties up the loose devil's head, then begins to release a strange cold. That loose devil seems to have thought of what Xiaoling Yu wants to do and continuously struggles violently. However, the icy soul heavenly silkworm's silk is really too tough. He simply can't break free. Moreover, his body is continuously being frozen, making his strength lower and lower. What Xiaoling Yu didn't expect was that after a period of effort, the third tribulation loose devil actually reappears his head. He bitterly says to Xiaoling Yu, Brat, I advise you to let me go. Otherwise, threatening me again. Xiaoling Yu coldly snorts, ignoring him. The icy soul, heavenly silkworm exerts even more effort. You force me to do this. Demonic collapse technique explode for me. That loose devil is forced into a dead end. His heart is filled with regret and resentment. His expression is distorted as he roars loudly. Then, Xiaoling Yu sees a burst of black light flickering in front of him. The icy soul heavenly silkworm's silk actually suddenly expands, like a balloon filled with air. Bang! Without waiting for Xiaoling Yu to make any preparations, an explosive sound came from the white cocoon. At the same time, a gust of wind swept in all directions, directly pushing Xiaoling Yu's body against the wall of the ancient god's cave dwelling. Fortunately, with the icy soul heavenly silkworm's restraint, the loose devil's demonic collapse technique didn't create too much destructive power. After fiercely smashing against the wall, Xiaoling Yu falls down, spitting out a few mouthfuls of blood. Then he's fine. However, the icy soul heavenly silkworm that took over 90% of the demonic collapse technique's power head didn't have a good time. Its silk is fluttering chaotically from the explosion, and it's also emitting black smoke. After trembling for a while, the icy soul heavenly silkworm lets out a mournful cry. Then it hides inside Xiaoling Yu's body, running into his dantian. Its aura seems to be very weak. Xiao Yu is even more furious, but then he sees a small Yuanying wearing black armor that is slowly dissipating. That Yuanying is that loose devil's demonic infant. After a loose devil disintegrates, there's no way to survive. Their Yuanying will slowly dissipate after their body collapses. Unless they're forced into a dead end, loose immortals and loose devils simply won't choose to disintegrate. Once they disintegrate, the terrifying energy contained in their body will instantly erupt, causing heavy damage to their enemies. Xiao Yu didn't plan to let this third tribulation loose devil go from the start. He doesn't believe that if he let him go, he'll disregard their previous enmity. Especially for a big power like the Black Blood Demon, they hold grudges even more and are even more unwilling to let others plunder their whiskers. In a place like the cultivation world, Xiao Yu, who doesn't have a powerful background, must be decisive in killing. He absolutely can't show mercy to his enemies. There's a saying on Earth, being soft-hearted to your enemies is being cruel to yourself. But he didn't expect that loose devil to have such a perverted technique like the demonic body disintegration technique to self-detonate his physical body. That loose devil definitely won't have a good end, but the icy soul heavenly silkworm was also blown up very miserably. Presumably, Xiao Yu will have to pay a huge price to make the icy soul heavenly silkworm recover. Moreover, he can't count on the icy soul heavenly silkworm for a short period of time. The anger and vexation in Xiao Yu's heart can be imagined. Holding the phoenix feather, he slowly walks towards the loose devil's demonic infant. Brat, I warned you. Unfortunately, you didn't listen. Now you regret it, right? That demonic infant probably knows that he's going to die, so he doesn't have the slightest fear. His words also seem more impudent. Oof, I won't let you die easily. Xiao Yu's expression is ice cold. With a wave of his hand, he makes the phoenix feather spurt out a scorching wave of fire, enveloping that demonic infant. This demonic infant of yours should be able to hold on for a few years. Then, have a taste of being burned by raging flames. Xiao Yu is like a great evil devil at this moment. His thoughts are very vicious. Being enveloped by the phoenix feather's raging flames, that demonic infant can only rely on the supreme-grade spirit armor to resist. Although he knows that he's going to die, as long as he's still alive, cultivators won't give up any hope of survival. Therefore, the demonic infant still chooses to resist instead of letting the raging flames burn him to death. The self-detonation power of a third tribulation loose devil is extremely strong. As long as it's not a supreme-grade spirit artifact, it will be blown to pieces. Since the loose devil's storage magic treasure was destroyed, the treasures inside were naturally all exiled to the cultivation world's spatial turbulence. Just as Xiao Yu is a little disappointed and is looking for that silver needle, he sees a small bronze mirror lying flat on the ground. Although the surface of that small bronze mirror is also emitting black smoke, if you look carefully, you'll find that it's not damaged at all. That silver needle is a divine artifact, so naturally it won't be destroyed. It's also lined together with a small bronze mirror. Xiao Yu puts away the silver needle and starts to play with that small bronze mirror. There's no doubt that this small bronze mirror is a supreme-grade spirit artifact. What Xiao Yu can't be sure is whether it's a tracking mirror or not. This small bronze mirror should have been kept in the loose devil's body before, not in a storage magic treasure. After making a hole in the phoenix feather's raging flames, Xiao Yu asks that Yuanying loose devil, "This should be the tracking mirror, right?" That loose devil replies without hesitation. "So what if it is? The tracking mirror is something unique to me, a black blood demon. Even if you get it, you won't be able to use it. You simply don't know how to use it, huh? It looks like you definitely won't take the initiative to tell me how to use it. I'm also not in a hurry to use it. You can slowly enjoy it." Xiao Yu waves his hand and makes the raging flames wrap around that Yuanying. Then he tries to drip his blood on the tracking mirror to recognize him as its master. But as expected, the tracking mirror doesn't accept his blood essence. If I can use this tracking mirror, it should be much easier to find my father, mother, and Gu Xiaoman. Xiaoling Yu suddenly had such a thought and was even more concerned about the tracking spirit mirror. A magic treasure needs to recognize its master before it can be used. It doesn't recognize me as its master, so I can't use it. Is it because this loose devil still has a breath left? With this thought, Xiaoling Yu doesn't plan to continue torturing that loose devil's yuanying. He immediately increases the intensity of the raging flames, burning that old devil's yuanying until it wails like ghosts and howls like wolves. Brat, if you dare to kill me, then just wait for the revenge of the Black Blood Demon. Our Blackbeard Devil sect doesn't only have one tracking mirror. The loose devil's devil armor gradually melts, and he can't help but anxiously shout, I can let you live, but you have to tell me how to use this tracking mirror. Xiaoling Yu calmly said, this tracking mirror belongs to my devil sect master. However, we, the loose devils of the Black Blood Demon, can use a part of its function by using the technique passed down by our sect master. You are not a loose devil of my Black Blood Demon, and the power in your body can't reach the quality of devil spirit power. Even if I tell you the technique, you won't be able to use it. The loose devil explained. Devil spirit power? Hee hee. You don't need to worry about whether I can use it or not. You only need to tell me the technique. Xiaoling Yu shook his head and said with a smile, the quality of his current chaotic energy shouldn't be much worse than devil spirit power or immortal spirit power. I can tell you, but you must first use your soul to swear to let go of my yuanying. The loose devil made a request. Deal, Xiaoling Yu said very straightforwardly. This loose devil has already disintegrated. Even if he can use some special method to reconstruct his body, it's absolutely impossible for him to survive the fourth loose devil heavenly tribulation. Moreover, after he returns, he still has to work hard to reconstruct his body. He absolutely won't have time to find trouble with Xiaoling Yu. Chapter 60. Inside the ancient god's immortal cave, there was naturally no way to test whether the incantation was correct or not. Xiaoling Yu brought the nascent soul of the rogue devil into the tunnel. Then, he used his own energy to imitate his own appearance and perform the incantation. Tracking rise. After performing the incantation and sending it into the small bronze mirror, Xiaoling Yu shouted loudly. After the small bronze mirror trembled for a while, it slowly rose in front of the dumbfounded nascent soul. Then, it released an invisible wave which spread to the surroundings of the ancient god's immortal cave. About 10 breaths later, the tracking spirit mirror absorbed Xiaoling Yu's illusory image, which was imitated by the chaotic energy, and turned it into a pointer. However, the pointer did not point to any direction. It just kept spinning and disappeared after a while. The tracking spirit mirror quieted down and turned back into a seemingly ordinary small bronze mirror. Its pointer kept spinning, which means that it has already found its target. The rogue devil's nascent soul quickly explained. Xiaoling Yu gently nodded. He naturally could also think of this point. Then, he imitated Gu Yunfei's appearance and activated the tracking spirit mirror. The pointer then pointed to the direction of the void inquiry stage immortal sect. As a result, Xiaoling Yu no longer had any doubts. However, he would not activate the tracking spirit mirror to find the direction of his parents or Gu Xiaoman in front of this rogue devil's nascent soul. Instead, he waved his hand at the rogue devil and said, "You can leave now." The experiment that cultivators set up with their souls could not be violated because it would definitely come true. The rogue devil's nascent soul did not hesitate. It immediately turned into a ray of light and flew out of the desolate ancient forest. After the rogue devil's nascent soul flew away, Xiaoling Yu activated the tracking spirit mirror again. It was still for the sake of the experiment, and the subject of the experiment was the rogue devil. The result made Xiaoling Yu feel even more relieved because the pointer pointed to the direction where the rogue devil's nascent soul flew away. Filled with excitement, Xiaoling Yu first imitated his mother's illusory image and activated the tracking spirit mirror. However, what made Xiaoling Yu feel helpless was that the tracking spirit mirror did not give him any indication. This meant that his mother was not on the Flying Feather Continent and had never appeared on the Flying Feather Continent before. Xiaolingyu tried it twice with his father and Gu Xiaomin, but the result was still the same. He also tried it with his 3 roommates during his university days, but the results still made him feel very disappointed. Of course, there was another possibility that they could not find the target, and that was that the target was already dead and did not leave any traces in the world, or the traces left behind had already dissipated. Naturally, Xiaolingyu would not be so pessimistic. After that, he fed the icy soul heavenly silkworm some of his blood and blood chaser, and then flew towards the starry sky. It only took Xiaolingyu 2 hours to reach the high altitude of the Flying Feather Continent's teleportation formation. Even though he was hundreds of miles away from the ground, Xiaolingyu could still clearly see that there were 6 towering stone pillars on the ground of the Flying Feather Continent under his feet. The 6 stone pillars formed an interstellar teleportation formation that could be used to travel to other cultivation continents. At this moment, the only interstellar teleportation formation on the Flying Feather Continent was constantly emitting white light. One cultivator after another used the teleportation formation to leave the Flying Feather Continent. There were also cultivators coming from other cultivation continents to the Flying Feather Continent. There were many cultivators waiting to be teleported next to the teleportation formation. There were also many powerful cultivators near the teleportation formation. They were using their spiritual senses to scan the vicinity of the teleportation formation as if they were on guard or waiting for something. Just as I expected, this place is already surrounded. If I appear, I'm afraid I'll immediately be surrounded by those experts. A man's wealth is his own ruin by arousing greed. It's the same in the cultivation world. Xiaolingyu shook his head and sighed. Under such circumstances, it would be extremely difficult for him to use the teleportation formation to leave the Flying Feather Continent. This was because even if he used the power of his immortal weapon to forcefully charge into the teleportation formation, he would not be able to activate it. The activation of the teleportation formation could not be disturbed. If the teleportation formation was attacked while it was activated, the teleportation formation would automatically stop. This was also to protect the cultivators. This was because if the teleportation formation was unstable, the best outcome would be to deviate from the destination of the teleportation formation. The most normal outcome would be to be sent into spatial turbulence. The most terrifying outcome would be to be instantly destroyed by the spatial force created by the teleportation formation. Xiaolingyu did not dare to gamble that he would only deviate from the destination of the teleportation formation. Therefore, he needed to make preparations that could completely conceal his identity or lure all these cultivators away. Concealing his identity might seem simple. All he needed to do was to change his appearance. However, there were rogue immortals or rogue devils waiting for him near the teleportation formation. Their immortal sense or devil sense could easily see through his disguise. It was not easy to lure these experts away. He could naturally lure them away by himself, but he might not be able to get away by then. Finding someone else to lure them away or using other conditions to lure them away, Xiaolingyu also needed someone who could help him. Similarly, he also needed a more attractive condition to make these cultivators give up on guarding this place. Xiaolingyu pondered in the sky for a long time, but still could not come up with a good idea. However, what he did not expect was that after just 2 days, the experts near the teleportation formation actually left one after another. All of them were heading towards the void inquiry stage. Could it be a trap? Xiaolingyu seemed to be a little doubtful. He could not believe that the teleportation formation was safe at this moment. After waiting for another day, Xiaolingyu still did not see any experts coming back. He even carefully searched the area near the teleportation formation. Other than the experts who came from outside, he did not even find a single Great Ascension Realm cultivator. I don't care anymore. This kind of heaven-sent opportunity won't come again too often. I can't afford to miss it. Let's fight. Xiaolingyu kept his star-chasing sword and landed on the square next to the teleportation formation without hesitation. However, as soon as he landed, he heard the cultivators who were also queuing up to be teleported say something important. There were many experts surrounding the Void Inquiry stage. They said that the Void Inquiry stage was hiding the cultivator who obtained the immortal weapon, which was Shaolin Yu himself. Those experts were not baseless. According to the information they received, there was a disciple called Gu Yunfei in the Void Inquiry stage who once had some interactions with the young man who snatched the immortal weapon. Moreover, the two of them had a very good relationship. They had even deduced that Gu Yunfei had taken Shaolin Yu into that medicinal garden. The Void Inquiry stage naturally denied this at all costs. Naturally, they would not agree to the unreasonable request of those experts who wanted to enter the Void Inquiry stage and search carefully. At present, both sides were still in a stalemate. However, as more and more experts arrived at the Void Inquiry stage, this stalemate would certainly not last long. There would always be some impatient cultivators who would act impulsively. The Void Inquiry stage indeed did not hide Shaolin Yu. Shaolin Yu was very clear about this. He believed that the other cultivators were also clear about this. Those experts should have been incited to go there. There should also be someone fanning the flames in the dark with the purpose of luring Shaolin Yu out. The latest news was that those experts who surrounded the Void Inquiry stage could not wait any longer. Many of them attacked the grand formation of the Void Inquiry stage and threatened the Void Inquiry stage to hand over Shaolin Yu and Gu Yunfei. Even though the Void Inquiry stage was innocent, they had no one to reason with. The interior of the sect was in chaos. The Void Inquiry stage was considered a top-notch, rich, and powerful sect on the Flying Feather Continent. However, in the entire cultivation world, it could only barely be ranked as a mid-tier sect. Facing the siege of so many Tribulation Passing Realm, Great Ascension Realm, and even Rogue Immortal and Rogue Devil experts, their immortal sect would certainly be breached. Once their sect was breached, what awaited them would certainly be a calamity. Under such an urgent situation, the big shots of the Void Inquiry stage did not have much time to consider. There were too many secrets and important matters of the Void Inquiry stage inside the sect. They absolutely could not allow others to search carefully. Hence, they could only hand over Gu Yunfei. They also wanted to hand over Shaolin Yu. If they found Shaolin Yu, they would not wait for these experts to besiege them. They would have already taken those immortal weapons that Shaolin Yu had snatched and fled without a trace. Gu Yunfei was the favorite disciple of the Void Inquiry stage sect master. Originally, he was supposed to become the next sect master of the Void Inquiry stage after his master reached the Tribulation Passing Realm. That was why he was forced to cultivate diligently. He was forced to reach the Body Integration Realm as soon as possible so that he could take over the sect master's position. Never had he thought that such a thing would happen. The big shots of the Void Inquiry stage were forced by the situation to persuade Gu Yunfei. For the sake of the stability of the Void Inquiry stage, how could Gu Yunfei, who had grown up in the sect, refuse to do so? Upon hearing the news, Shaolin Yu was stunned. The teleportation formation was right in front of him. Moreover, it was unobstructed. However, he could not move even half a step towards it. He was a decisive person who would never show mercy to his enemies. He was also a person who was greedy for life and afraid of death, because there were still many things waiting for him to do. He was also a very careful person. In the cultivation world, careless people were not allowed to live for too long. However, he was also a sentimental person. He was not an ungrateful person. Otherwise, with his current strength, he could have lived a very comfortable life in the cultivation world if he did not go looking for his family. Otherwise, when he heard that Gu Yunfei was going to be in trouble, he would not hesitate to leave the Flying Feather Continent. If he left, it would be equivalent to ignoring the life and death of his sworn brother. He could not do such a thing. However, if he stayed, those experts would certainly use Gu Yunfei to threaten him. It was not a big deal for them to force him to hand over his immortal weapons, but it was also very possible for them to take his life. Recalling the oath he made with the Yunfei when he became sworn brothers, Xiaoling Yu, who had already arrived in front of the teleportation formation, turned around resolutely and flew towards the Void Inquiry Stage Immortal Sect. When Xiaoling Yu arrived near the Void Inquiry Stage Immortal Sect, those experts had already left. Naturally, Gu Yunfei was also taken away by them. Not long after, a piece of news spread across the Void Inquiry continent. It said that Xiaoling Yu had to go to a small town called Ninping Town outside the Falling Rock Desert. The time limit was 1 month. If Xiaoling Yu did not go, or if he was late, he would have to wait to collect Gu Yunfei's corpse. Nanping Town was located outside the Falling Rock Desert. It was a very small and desolate town. However, it was very lively today. Regardless of whether it was the experts from other continents or the Flying Feather continent, all of them had rushed here. Someone said that there were no less than 20 Great Ascension Realm experts in the vicinity of Nanping Town. There were definitely more than 200 Tribulation Realm experts. As for Body Integration Realm experts, they did not dare to get too close to Nanping Town. As for how many loose immortals and loose devils there were among them, no one knew. Xiaoling Yu knew that it would be very difficult to rescue Gu Yunfei from the encirclement of these experts. However, he did not have the slightest intention of retreating. Instead, he began to wander around the surroundings of Nanping Town, thinking of possible solutions. Chapter 61. No one could inform Xiaoling Yu, and he didn't dare to go too close to Nanping Town to investigate. However, it was obvious that Gu Yunfei was being watched by many experts, and those cultivators who seemed to be meditating were also using their spiritual senses to be on alert. As long as Xiaoling Yu entered their range of perception, there was a possibility that he would be discovered. Under such circumstances, if Xiaoling Yu wanted to save Gu Yunfei, he couldn't force his way through. No matter how he looked at it, he could only hand over the immortal weapon in exchange for Gu Yunfei. If he handed over the immortal weapon, would those experts let him and Gu Yunfei go? Xiaoling Yu had offended many people. If he lost the immortal weapon now, he wouldn't even be able to walk out of the Feiyu continent alive. What he could think of was that those experts from the Cloud Gathering Treasure House were still eyeing the icy soul heavenly silkworm. Not only did he have to hand over the immortal weapon, the phoenix feather, but he also had to hand over the icy soul heavenly silkworm. He definitely couldn't hand over the immortal weapon and the icy soul heavenly silkworm because he might not be able to save Gu Yunfei. As the deadline approached, Xiaoling Yu became more and more anxious. He had to leave the Feiyu continent as soon as possible. Otherwise, the experts from the Black Blood Demon would definitely come looking for him. If he left too late, even if he saved Gu Yunfei, it would be in vain. Master, let's just force our way through. I, the Devourer of Heaven, will take the lead for you. The serpent was anxious for its master's sake and said bravely, forget it. If it was the icy silkworm, it would be better. Xiaoling Yu paused and shook his head. The icy silkworm is powerful, but isn't it injured? I, the Devourer of Heaven, can also share master's burden. The serpent said jealously. Xiaoling Yu smiled slightly. He knew that the serpent was worried that he would forget about it once he had the icy silkworm. After all, it wasn't as powerful as the icy silkworm. Even if you want to make a contribution, you should find a better time. Rushing over now is no different from sending yourself to your death. Xiaoling Yu said amiably. Indeed, it's too dangerous over there. There are groups of Tribulation Transcendence experts there. However, if the ice silk wasn't injured, we could actually get a large number of experts. The serpent was not convinced. Xiaoling Yu furrowed her brows in confusion at first, but then she came to a sudden realization and said, You mean, let the ice silkworm help us catch demonic beasts? Yes, from the performance of the ice silkworm, catching some crossing calamity stage or Deshang stage monsters is as easy as cutting vegetables. The big snake said, That's right. Why didn't I think of that? In the desolate ancient forest, there are many crossing calamity stage and great vehicle stage demonic beasts. If we let the ice silkworms catch them, it won't be a problem to form an army of demonic beasts. Xiaoling Yu said excitedly. but the ice silkworm is injured. How are you going to build your monster army? The serpent reminded him gloomily. It's injured, not dead. After the injury is healed, we can build it. Xiao Lingyu was still very happy. But the ice silkworm's injury looks very serious. It can't recover in a short time, and those hateful guys don't give you much time. The serpent continued to remind. It's not like there's no way to make the ice silkworm recover quickly. With my blood essence and a kind of strange cold material or medicinal herb, it'll be able to recover 70 to 80% quickly. Xiao Lingyu smiled lightly. Master, do you already have a plan? The serpent asked curiously. What plan is there for this? Hurry up and find a cold material or medicinal herb. I hope it's not too late. After Xiao Lingyu said this, she turned around and quietly left the vicinity of Nanping Town. Devourer of Heaven, you have lived in the Feiyu continent for many years. Do you know where there's a cold place? Xiao Lingyu asked the serpent while flying on Chasing Star. I'm sorry, Master. Before I met you, I only moved around the pool onto the waterfall. I basically didn't go far. You also know that the desolate ancient forest is very dangerous. Those powerful demonic beasts don't like other creatures to enter their territory. At that time, I was only at the spirit severing stage. Well, you don't have to explain. I know, but I have heard of a place where there should be cold materials or medicinal herbs. Xiao Lingyu didn't wait for the serpent to finish explaining. He took over the words and then flew to the north at full speed. Jiang Lanyue told Xiao Lingyu about that place when she was in the ancient god's immortals cave. However, she warned Xiao Lingyu that that place was very dangerous for the masters of the Deshang stage. He couldn't go there before reaching the Deshang stage. If the serpent knew that there might be cold things in other places, Xiao Lingyu wouldn't take the risk. Unfortunately, the serpent didn't have it, and Xiao Lingyu didn't have much time to find it, so he could only take the risk. After about 2 hours, Xiao Lingyu entered a world of ice and snow. This ice and snow place was near the northern pole of the Feiyu continent. It was very cold, and the spirit qi was very thin, so it was also a place where people rarely went. After arriving here, Xiao Lingyu had Star Chaser slow down. He also removed Star Chaser's defensive barrier. Standing in the cabin of Chasing Star, Xiao Lingyu felt the direction of the cold wind, and then went against the cold wind. Not long after, the wind suddenly changed direction. Xiao Lingyu didn't feel strange. He immediately let Chasing Star change direction and continued to go against the wind. Every once in a while, the direction of the wind and the direction of the star would change. This repeated dozens of times, and after 20 hours, Xiao Lingyu finally stopped. In front of him, there was the entrance to a large valley. This was the Big Wind Valley. Many powerhouses on the Feiyu continent knew about this place. Some of them had also been here before, but they couldn't find the strangeness of this place. In addition, the temperature in the Big Wind Valley was extremely low. The strong wind inside could even break the protective energy shield of a crossing tribulation stage cultivator, and the cold could make the crossing tribulation stage cultivator's skill flow difficult. Therefore, this was one of the most dangerous places on the Feiyu continent. Xiao Lingyu put away Chasing Star and slowly walked towards the entrance of the Big Wind Valley. Although Chasing Star was a supreme-grade spiritual weapon, Xiao Lingyu knew that any magic weapon that was driven by spiritual power or was driven by spiritual power would be difficult to operate in the Big Wind Valley. Chasing Star's defensive shield would collapse very quickly after entering the valley. The wind at the entrance of the Big Wind Valley was very strong. Cultivators whose cultivation had not reached the crossing tribulation stage would not be able to stand at the entrance of the valley, let alone walk in. Xiao Lingyu's skill had already reached the middle stage of the crossing tribulation stage. Naturally, he could withstand the strong wind. His chaotic energy was also of a higher level than spiritual power. The defensive shield formed by chaotic energy would not be easily broken by the strong wind. The strong wind in the valley was indeed more violent. It roared like thunder. Although Xiao Lingyu's defensive shield would not break, it was still difficult for him to move. The strange cold and strong wind were not the most dangerous things in this valley. Occasionally, there would be a gust of colorful wind blowing out. These colorful winds were the most dangerous. Even a grand ascension stage cultivator's immortal spiritual power defensive shield would be easily torn apart by these colorful winds. Even a supreme-grade spiritual weapon would not be able to withstand these winds for more than 10 breaths of time, let alone a cultivator's physical body. Xiao Yu held the phoenix feather tightly in his hand. If he was unfortunate enough to encounter those colorful winds, he could only rely on this immortal spiritual weapon. The area of the valley was not very large. Xiao Yu quickly reached the deepest part of the valley and saw a very smooth ice wall. This ice wall was Xiao Yu's target location. As soon as he arrived, he saw a gust of blue wind rushing out of the ice wall like a flood dragon. Xiao Yu knew that these colorful winds seemed to have eyes. As long as there were cultivators nearby, they would directly pounce on them. Cultivators could not hope to avoid them at all. They could only face them head-on. This was the most important reason why the strong cultivators of the Flying Feather Continent did not dare to come here. "Get out of my way," Xiao Yu shouted. He waved the phoenix feather in his hand and swept it towards the blue wind. Suddenly, a wave of scorching fire gushed out from the phoenix feather. In a flash, the blue and red colors intertwined. They violently collided and consumed each other's energy. Not long after, Xiao Yu heaved a long sigh of relief. The phoenix feather was indeed not an ordinary fairy weapon of middle or lower grade. With the help of the chaotic energy, it easily dispersed the blue wind. Xiao Yu arrived in front of the ice wall again, but he hesitated. He knew that he needed to break through this ice wall first. This was not difficult for him, who possessed 2 god artifacts. However, he also knew that once he broke through this ice wall, behind this seemingly calm ice wall, there would immediately be a gust of colored wind. If he was the slightest bit careless or his reaction was the slightest bit slow, then he would lose his life here. Since he had come here, he had to break this ice wall. Xiao Yu had no other choice. He quickly suppressed the fear in his heart and encouraged himself. "I'm so lucky. The earth has been destroyed, but I'm still alive. I've even captured a 3rd tribulation loose devil alive. How can this little difficulty stop me?" Then, Xiao Yu took out the silver needle and fiercely stabbed it into the ice wall. At the same time, he also let the phoenix feather begin to spit out scorching waves of fire to protect his body. When a silver needle hit the ice wall, the seemingly indestructible ice wall collapsed in an instant. Not even a second had passed when gusts of strong winds of various colors surged out from the long and serene cave behind the ice wall, rushing towards Xiao Yu with incomparable ferocity. However, they were firmly blocked by the waves of fire spewed out by the phoenix feathers. In order to maintain the phoenix feathers' fire waves, Xiao Yu's power was also rapidly depleting. If his power was exhausted and the colored wind still didn't stop, then he didn't have to think about anything else. But when Xiao Yu's power had been consumed by 90%, there was still a fierce wind surrounding him, which almost made him despair. Xiao Yu had no choice but to risk the collapse of his nascent soul and let the chaotic nascent soul release energy to help him. Just when the chaotic nascent soul was about to collapse, Xiao Yu, who had almost lost all hope and was mourning for himself, was delighted to find that the wind around him had stopped. Chapter 62. At the end of the cave was a cold pond that was not very big. Lotuses of different colors grew in the pond. Cold mist rolled on the surface of the cold pond. Between the petals of the lotuses, there were strands of mist that were the same color as the petals. Every time the lotuses shook slightly, the colored mist between the petals would form a cold wind that would surge out of the cave. Through Jiang Lanyue's information, Xiao Yu knew that the thing that caused the cold was not the lotuses, nor was it the cold wind. It was the roots of the lotuses under the cold pond, which was the lotus stalks. The cold pond was too cold. Even though Xiao Yu's body had transformed twice, he did not dare to go down. Even releasing a chaotic energy barrier was not enough. Xiao Yu knew that he could not stay here for long. The mist between the lotus petals gradually increased. After a certain amount, the mist would turn into cold wind. He only hesitated for a moment before inviting the icy soul heavenly silkworm out. He said, "You can only rely on yourself now. Go down and eat those lotus stalks." Only a creature of the cold like the icy soul heavenly silkworm dared to enter the cold pond. After the icy soul heavenly silkworm came out, it was very satisfied with the environment. It first stretched its snow-white tentacles in satisfaction, then dived into the cold pond. After about 100 breaths of time, Xiaoling Yu saw a lotus flower with thorny branches floating on the surface of the cold pond. Xiaoling Yu could guess that the icy soul heavenly silkworm had already eaten the lotus stalk. Not long after, a few more lotuses floated on the surface of the cold pond. The icy soul heavenly silkworm also floated up. However, the icy soul heavenly silkworm had turned into a white cocoon. It was just that its size had more than doubled. Most importantly, the icy soul heavenly silkworm used to be spherical in this state. This time, it was very irregular. In its white cocoon state, the icy soul heavenly silkworm flew directly into Xiaoling Yu's body from the surface of the cold pond. It sank into his dantian. Xiaoling Yu could look carefully. From the gaps between the layers of white tentacles, Xiaoling Yu saw a transparent ice crystal. Before Xiaoling Yu could figure out what the ice crystal was, he first felt that the temperature around him was getting higher and higher. The ice and snow around him was gradually melting. Did the icy soul heavenly silkworm dig out the cold essence here? Xiaoling Yu said, in surprise. Jiang Luanyue had told him before that the most valuable treasure here was the cold essence hidden deep under the cold pond. Regardless of whether it was the cold here, the cold pond, or the lotus in the cold pond, they all existed because of the cold essence. Without the cold essence, this place would be no different from any other place in the Feiyu continent. Back then, Jiang Luanyue did not think that Xiaoling Yu had the ability to enter the Great Wind Valley. She also did not think that Xiaoling Yu had the ability to enter the cold pond. Hence, this place was very dangerous. She also did not think that Xiaoling Yu would be able to obtain a powerful ice creature like the icy soul heavenly silkworm. The stem of the lotus could allow the heavily injured icy soul heavenly silkworm to recover quickly. However, the cold essence was a mortal grade. In the cultivation world, it was a priceless treasure to cultivators of the ice system. It could definitely allow the icy soul heavenly silkworm's ability to improve. The icy soul heavenly silkworm was very powerful, but it was very difficult for it to improve every time. Until now, only immortal-grade materials could allow it to continue improving. It had to be said that this was an unexpected surprise. However, immortal-grade materials were not that easy to digest. Even for a creature like the icy soul heavenly silkworm, it would take a very long time to digest such a large piece of cold essence. Xiaoling Yu could not wait that long. Hence, he contacted the icy soul heavenly silkworm with his mind and reminded it, "Heal your injuries first, then do me a favor. Once this is over, you could digest the cold essence." Although the icy soul heavenly silkworm was unwilling, it still agreed. It swallowed the cold essence first. Xiaoling Yu instructed his chaotic nascent soul to transfer the essence blood in his body to feed the icy soul heavenly silkworm so that it could recover faster and better. When the temperature here was no longer so cold, Xiaoling Yu began to empty the water in the cold pond. He stored the lotus flowers and lotus roots into his empty jade boxes, preparing to give them to the icy soul heavenly silkworm as snacks in the future. Not only was the ice and snow in the Great Wind Valley melting rapidly, but the entire northern ice and snow world of the Feiyu continent was the same. However, because everyone's attention was focused on Nanping Town in the periphery of the Rockfall Desert, not many people noticed the changes here, and no powerful cultivators came to check. Xiaoling Yu did not waste any time. He rode the chasing star and headed towards the ancient desolate forest. As for recovering his power, that could only be done on the way. Time quickly reached the last day. It was the last day of the 1-month deadline given to Xiaoling Yu by the powerful cultivators who took away Gu Yunfei. Although Nanping Town was filled with powerful cultivators, it was still very quiet. However, everyone's attention was especially focused today. However, to many cultivators, Shaolin Yu would probably not come. After all, if it were them, they would definitely take the immortal weapon and leave. Cultivators had been cultivating for too long, and cultivation was too difficult. Everything in the cultivation world did not allow them to be sentimental. In a wing room of one of the few three-story buildings in Nanping Town, Gu Yunfei was sitting on a wooden chair without moving. His expression was very calm. In Gu Yunfei's opinion, his sworn brother would probably not come. After all, there were too many powerful cultivators here. Even if Shaolin Yu came, he would not be able to save him. At most, he would die with him. Gu Yunfei's thoughts were a little conflicted. On one hand, he did not want Shaolin Yu to come. He did not want Shaolin Yu to lose his life to save him. On the other hand, he really hoped that Shaolin Yu cared about him and cared about the oath he made with him. Time is almost up. It seems like that brat is not coming. Uncle Luo, who was still wearing a red robe, said with a gloomy expression, "Haha, you have to be patient. I think that brat will definitely come." The stooped lady 18 shook her head and laughed. "What if he doesn't come?" Gao Pinger frowned and asked. This was Lady 18's idea. Previously, only the people in the Cloud Gathering Treasure House knew about the relationship between Shaolin Yu and Gu Yunfei. Naturally, the Cloud Gathering Treasure House deliberately released the news to create the current situation. If that brat doesn't come, we can't expect to find him again. He has a lot of chances to leave through the teleportation formation. Of course, it's also possible that he has already flown to the starry sky and doesn't know the situation here. A cultivator with the cultivation of a three-tribulation, loose immortal, said helplessly, "Haha, everyone knows that this is the only chance we can take advantage of. Guarding the teleportation formation can't block that brat's way out of the Feiyu continent. But I believe that kid will definitely come, and it will be today." 18 Madam said confidently, "I really don't know where your confidence comes from. If this happened to me, I would definitely not come to die. As a matter of fact, that brat hasn't come for so long. There's a 90% chance that he won't come." Another loose devil cultivator said, "My confidence comes from that brat. He has always lived in a place that values loyalty and friendship. If you don't believe me, just wait and see." Lady 18 said indifferently, "If that brat really doesn't come today, how should we deal with this disciple of the Void Inquiry Immortal Sect?" A Great Ascension Realm expert asked. "What else can we do? Of course, we'll just kill him," Lady 18 said casually. Hearing this answer, that loose devil cultivator nodded slightly, while the other experts frowned immediately. Asterisk bang. Asterisk, just as they were talking, a loud noise was suddenly heard. The entire small building shook violently. Asterisk roar. Asterisk asterisk roar. Asterisk asterisk woo. Asterisk then. Loud noises were heard continuously. At the same time, waves of demonic beasts' roars shook heaven and earth. The expressions of the cultivators who gathered in Southern Plain Town changed abruptly at this time, because demonic beasts with cultivation bases above the body integration realm were constantly falling from the sky. When everyone raised their heads to look, their expressions became even more unsightly because there were actually countless small black dots in the sky. Waves of ferocious and powerful chi were falling from the sky at the same time. Countless demonic beasts fell from the sky like raindrops. After they landed, they began to attack randomly. In an instant, Southern Plain Town was thrown into chaos. Some cultivators who were caught off guard were directly swallowed alive by those demonic beasts. In less than 10 breaths of time, there were already hundreds of Tribulation Realm demonic beasts descending. They were ruthless and violent, taking away the lives of more than 20 Tribulation Realm experts at the same time. What made everyone even more surprised was that there were no less than 30 Great Ascension Realm demonic beasts descending from the sky. That brat did come, but he brought us a big surprise, Lady 18 said with a wry smile. How can he get so many demonic beast experts? Could it be that the desolate ancient forest has already become his kingdom? Luo Bo said in shock. There aren't any powerful rogue demons here. It's absolutely impossible for him to use these demonic beasts to save people. Lady 18 said confidently. But even these demonic beasts are enough to cause us great damage. A rogue immortal expert said, Hee hee, the ones who will be damaged aren't us, but others. It just so happens that there are too many people here. You can help me kill these demonic beasts so that we have fewer competitors. Lady 18 said with a smile, You're not afraid. These demonic beasts can't do anything to you at all. But don't forget that it was our collective attack that made the Void Inquiry stage hand over Gu Yunfei. The rogue devil expert said, Everyone, don't worry. I swear with my soul that I will never take the immortal weapon on that brat. The immortal weapon will belong to you. I only want the other treasure on that brat, which originally belonged to me. Lady 18 said in a comforting manner, Let's move Gu Yunfei to another place first. Otherwise, when the battle breaks out, that brat might take advantage of the chaos and rescue her. A rogue immortal suggested, If we move, experts like us will have to stay here to resist those demonic beasts. It's also possible that we might lose Gu Yunfei. Ping Er said. Chapter 63. At this moment, Xiaoling Yu was in the sky above Nanping town, and a small bronze mirror was floating in front of him. He was still constantly making hand seals, sending Gu Yunfei's image into the small round mirror. There was a pointer in the small round mirror that was originally constantly spinning, but after a while, it had a direction. They really want to move Big Brother Gu. This will save us a lot of trouble. Xiaoling Yu muttered, and flew in the direction of the small bronze mirror's pointer. These demonic beasts of Nanping town came from the desolate ancient forest, and they were captured by Xiaoling Yu using the icy soul heavenly silkworm. Before Xiaoling Yu came, he already thought that the other party would definitely move Gu Yunfei after Nanping town suffered such a strong attack, so he didn't descend to search for it. An hour passed, and Nanping town was still fighting. Everyone believed that Xiaoling Yu only let these demonic beasts be the vanguard, and Xiaoling Yu would definitely appear afterwards. Therefore, even if there was danger here, they still chose to stay and wait for Xiaoling Yu to appear and see if they had a chance to seize the immortal weapon. 18 Madam and the other loose immortals and loose devils with the strongest cultivations basically stayed. If Xiaoling Yu appeared here, they would have no use for Gu Yunfei, so they didn't choose to follow Xiaoling Yu. Moreover, most of the experts were also unwilling to follow, afraid that Xiaoling Yu would appear here and be killed. No one would have thought that Xiaoling Yu had already left Nanping town and was tailing Gao Pinger and the other cultivators who were escorting Gu Yunfei. At this moment, Gu Yunfei had already been escorted far away from Nanping town, but just as Xiaoling Yu was about to make a move, a tyrannical aura had already enveloped Gao Pinger and the others. The newcomer was none other than the three tribulations scattered immortal from the dragon subduing valley. After he calmed down, he had been wandering around the vicinity of Nanping town, waiting for such an opportunity. In his opinion, since Xiaoling Yu had already attacked Nanping town, he definitely cared about Gu Yunfei and would definitely not die so easily. Therefore, he wanted to kidnap Gu Yunfei himself and then use it to threaten Xiaoling Yu. At this point, he could guess that the dragon subduing valley's icy soul heavenly silkworm should have also fallen into Xiaoling Yu's hands. He did not come for the immortal equipment, but for the icy soul heavenly silkworm left behind by the ancestors of the dragon subduing valley. Of course, if he could get his hands on the immortal equipment, that would be the best. This old fellow actually wants to be the Oriole. What a pity. If I didn't have the tracking spirit mirror, he might really have gotten what he wanted. Xiaoling Yu faintly smiled and asked the icy soul heavenly silkworm to come out. Just as the three tribulations scattered immortal was about to snatch Gu Yunfei away, an even more powerful aura suddenly surged out of the space he had sealed with his aura. It actually instantly smoothed out his aura and stabilized the surrounding space. Seeing this, Xiaoling Yu was a little curious, so he did not let the icy soul heavenly silkworm make a move. Instead, he chose to continue watching. A young woman with an unsheathed long sword on her arm walked out from the group of cultivators who were escorting Yunfei. She wore a light blue outfit, and there were a few strands of hair fluttering in the wind on her forehead, making her appear valiant and formidable. The aura that had swept away the three tribulations scattered immortals' aura was released from her body. Even though she was facing a powerful three tribulations scattered immortal, her expression did not change at all. It was as cold as ice, and it would not melt even after 10,000 years. Those who block me will die. A three tribulation, loose celestial didn't dare to dawdle here for too long. He was worried that other experts would come to support him. After shouting loudly, he rushed toward the young woman with a powerful and domineering aura. He gave people a feeling that he was charging forward courageously and could shake 1,000 soldiers. The young woman's expression was stern. She held the long sword horizontally in front of her chest and held the sword hilt with one hand. Clang! When the three tribulations scattered immortal flew over, the young woman's hand gently pulled the long sword out of its sheath. A sharp and clear sound rang out. Huh! The young woman lightly shouted, and the long sword in her hand immediately emitted a cold radiance. A sharp sword ray shot toward the three tribulation scattered immortal. What was strange was that the sword ray that shot forward continuously trembled along the way. Every time it trembled, there would be several hundred similarly sharp sword rays around it. In just a flash, there were several thousand sword rays that completely sealed the path of the three tribulations scattered immortal. Sword cultivator. The three tribulations scattered immortal struck out dozens of palms in front of him. He used his powerful celestial spiritual energy to disperse the sword rays that filled the sky. However, when he sensed the terrifying sword essence contained in the sword rays, he could not help but exclaim in surprise. The three tribulations scattered immortal did not continue to attack. Instead, he frowned and asked, "You're only at the middle stage of the crossing tribulation stage, yet your sword essence is so powerful. Could it be that you're from the Eight Poles sword sect?" Unfortunately, the young woman was like a mute. She did not answer at all. It was impossible for a cultivator to be mute. The young woman just did not want to speak. Umph. Even if you're a crossing tribulation sword cultivator from the Eight Poles sword sect, you won't be able to stop me. The three tribulation bodiless celestial didn't say anything. He gathered his aura again and caused the space in the cultivation world to fluctuate. At the same time, he drew a circle in front of him with one arm. In an instant, the circle was filled with immortal spiritual energy. Then, like a blazing sun, it smashed toward the young sword cultivator. The three tribulations scattered immortal was able to lock his attack on the middle stage, crossing tribulation sword cultivator due to his advantage in cultivation. However, the magic attack formed by celestial spiritual energy could not be blocked by a top-grade spiritual weapon. Several times, the young woman was not afraid at all. She shouted and silently recited an incantation. Then, she threw the long sword in her hand into the air. The long sword shone with a resplendent radiance as it continued to expand in the air. In the blink of an eye, it had become a huge sword that was hundreds of meters long and hundreds of meters wide. It slashed viciously at the blazing sun that was formed from immortal energy. As soon as the huge sword appeared, even though Shaolin Yu was high in the sky and far from the battlefield, he felt a wave of terrifying sword essence spread through his body. He could not help but tremble. Even the chaotic nascent soul widened its eyes and gave Shaolin Yu a warning of danger. In an instant, the dazzling white greatsword that carried a sharp sword intent actually split the blazing sun into streams of light that filled the sky like a hot knife through butter. So strong, Shaolin Yu squinted his eyes and could not help exclaiming in surprise. Obviously, the three tribulations scattered immortal did not expect that his magic attack would be so easily broken by the opponent. After all, the gap between the middle stage crossing tribulations scattered immortal and the three tribulations scattered immortal was too big. However, the young woman's attack just now was not weaker than the celestial spiritual energy of a three tribulations scattered immortal. In other words, this young woman had the strength to challenge a three tribulation scattered immortal when she was in the crossing tribulation stage, which was really rare in the cultivation world. Sword cultivators did have the strength to challenge those at a higher stage. Moreover, their attack power was also recognized as powerful. Among the practitioners in the same stage, few could match the attack power of a sword cultivator. The three tribulations scattered immortal came back to his senses in a moment. His body flashed, and he teleported to the side of the young woman. Then, he slapped at her shoulder. Since his magic attack could not succeed, the three tribulations scattered immortal switched to close combat. Just as the palm of the three tribulations scattered immortal was about to hit the target, the long sword fell rapidly from the sky and blocked the young woman's attack. Bang! The palm of the three tribulations scattered immortal fiercely slapped the body of the long sword. However, the long sword only trembled slightly. Then a huge force gushed out of the long sword and turned into needle-like small swords, which continuously stabbed at the three tribulations scattered immortal's palm. When the celestial spiritual energy wrapped around his palm was about to be pierced through, the three tribulations scattered immortal hastily withdrew his palm and retreated. After retreating far away, the three tribulations scattered immortal said in astonishment, "It's unexpectedly an immortal sword. No wonder its attack power is so strong. You better leave. With me here, you can't snatch her away. Although you're not weak, and I'm only in the middle stage crossing tribulation stage, you can't defeat me. I don't want to waste my power on you." The young woman finally spoke. However, although her voice was very clear and melodious like the chirping of an oriole, it carried a trace of indifference and disinterest. "That's not necessarily true. I've waited for so long. How can I retreat without fighting?" The three tribulations scattered immortal didn't listen to that young woman's suggestion. He didn't think that he couldn't deal with a middle-stage crossing tribulation sword cultivator, even if she had an immortal sword in her hand. After replying, he once again used teleportation to attack. At this moment, an ice-cold aura descended from the sky. White frost and snowflakes immediately floated in the nearby space. In an instant, the temperature dropped to the point that even Deshang stage experts trembled from head to toe. Just as everyone revolved their power to defend themselves and looked all around, one after another, fine snow-white silk threads fell straight down and shot towards everyone present. The three tribulations scattered immortal, and the sword cultivator woman released their opponents at the same time. Without looking at the situation, the sword cultivator woman brandished her immortal sword and chopped at the white silk threads pouncing towards her. The three tribulations scattered immortal also did the same. But before their attacks could come into contact with the white silk threads, those falling white silk threads had already abruptly retreated back to the sky. "Icy soul, heavenly silkworm, that brat has come." The three tribulations scattered immortal was very familiar with these white silk threads. He impatiently shouted loudly. His body flashed, and he rushed toward the sky. "It's good that he's come." The sword cultivator woman's face finally showed a trace of fluctuation. She also raised her immortal sword and chased after him. The white silk threads that fell down just now gathered together and encircled Gu Yunfei into a white cocoon. Together, they rose into the sky. The three tribulations scattered immortal, and the sword cultivator woman flew into the sky one after the other. They both saw Shaoling Yu. However, Shaoling Yu didn't open her arms to welcome them. Instead, she faced their heads and waved her phoenix feather. At the same time, there was also a snow-white worm with the appearance of a silkworm. It opened its mouth and spouted a cold-colored cold wind towards them. Chapter 64. When the three tribulation loose immortal and the female sword cultivator flew into the sky again, Shaoling Yu had already disappeared with Gu Yunfei. The two of them looked at each other, then snorted at the same time and landed on the ground again. Not long after, 18 Madam and the other experts who were fighting against the demon beasts rushed over. But when they got the result, Their faces were as gloomy as lead clouds. Such a meticulous plan, but in the end, it was all in vain. 18 Madame also thought that Xiaoling Yu might follow Gu Yunfei, so she arranged the female sword cultivator, who seemed weak but was actually very strong, to be in the escort team. She didn't expect that the three-tribulation loose immortal would interfere. If it wasn't for that old man holding me back, Xiaoling Yu definitely wouldn't have a chance. The female sword cultivator said bitterly, "Haha, it's my fault for not being thorough enough." 18 Madame waved her hand at the young woman without any words of blame. "What should we do next?" Luo Bo asked. "We can only hurry to the teleportation formation as soon as possible. If I'm not wrong, that guy wants to leave the Feiyu continent. He definitely doesn't want to cross the starry sky because he's in a hurry to find someone and doesn't want to waste too much time. He will definitely choose to take the teleportation formation." 18 Madame calmly analyzed. Immediately, a group of experts flew quickly in the direction of the teleportation formation, while the great vehicle stage and loose immortal stage experts kept teleporting forward. Xiaoling Yu was indeed going in the direction of the teleportation formation, but before that, he first went to Nanping Town to gather the demon beasts that were fighting for him. He knew that the teleportation formation would definitely not let him pass so easily, so he had to take these demon beasts who were already in a frenzy and let them continue to fight. They would cover him as he entered the teleportation formation and have time to activate it. "You risked your life to save me. It's a bit too impulsive. Don't do this again." Gu Yunfei patted Xiaoling Yu's shoulder and said while tidying up his slightly embarrassed appearance, "Was it very risky? Why don't I think so?" Xiaoling Yu said with a chuckle. The process of him saving people was quite smooth. Moreover, it was always some demonic beasts that had nothing to do with him that were attacking. He didn't pay too much of a price. "I really didn't expect that in just a short 10 years, you would have already soared from the foundational level and become an existence that even I have to look up to." Gu Yunfei sighed. His expression was filled with envy and admiration, as well as self-mockery and bitterness. "It's just a bit of a fortuitous encounter. It's not worth praising. Big brother, you're also a hero. Sooner or later, you'll have a meteoric rise too." A momentary loss wouldn't determine the fate of the entire world. There's an old saying that goes, "Fortune lies within misfortune, and misfortune lies within misfortune," Xiaoling Yu said in a seemingly serious manner. "It's good that you can think of this. Although you're strong now, have a very powerful immortal weapon, and even have a powerful pet to help you, you've offended too many strong people. In the future, you'll definitely come into contact with more experts and encounter more dangers. If you're careless, all of your efforts will be wasted. Big brother is also relieved that you're not arrogant or rash." Gu Yunfei nodded and said, although Xiaoling Yu was stronger, Gu Yunfei's experience were definitely more abundant. Therefore, he was still qualified to advise his sworn brother. "Big brother, don't worry. Little brother really cherishes his little life. However, big brother should often give little brother some pointers in the future so that little brother doesn't go astray," Xiaoling Yu said very sincerely. After big brother finishes a matter, I'll travel the cultivation world with you," Gu Yunfei said with a smile. His expression was also filled with joy and anticipation. "What is big brother going to do? Do you want little brother to go and help?" Xiaoling Yu asked sincerely. "There's no need. It's just a small matter. I'll go by myself. At most, it'll take 100 years, at least 10 years. I'll be able to finish this matter, and then I'll come and find you," Gu Yunfei said as he shook his head. "In the future, I might not stay in one place for too long. How will you find me?" Xiaoling Yu asked. He was somewhat reluctant in his heart. Right now, he was considered to have no relatives in the cultivation world. He had no one to rely on, and Gu Yunfei was the closest person to him. He really didn't want to be separated from him. "Let's leave a soul imprint on each other. Then, we'll each buy a top-grade communication spiritual pearl in the future," Gu Yunfei said casually. "Wait," Xiaoling Yu casually responded. Then, a bunch of storage magic treasures appeared in his hand. Moreover, all of them were not ordinary items. So many storage magic treasures. Gu Yunfei asked in surprise. Hee hee, they were all looted by those monster beasts after they killed people in Namping Town. Among those killed cultivators, there were many crossing Calamity Stage and Deshang Stage masters. Their collection is very impressive, Xiaoling Yu said with a dry smile. Then he began to check the storage magic treasures one by one. Not long after, Xiaoling Yu's hand had 2 more silver beads the size of goose eggs. They were both top-grade communication spiritual pearls. It just so happens that there are 2 of them here. Their owners have already died. We 2 brothers will each have one. In the future, we can often contact each other. It should be quite convenient. Xiaoling Yu handed one of the beads to Gu Yunfei and said happily, "Great, a top-grade communication spiritual pearl is worth millions of top-grade spirit stones. I was worried about where to get so many top-grade spirit stones in the future. Now, I don't have to worry anymore." Gu Yunfei naturally would not refuse. After receiving it, he was very happy. There is no shortage of top-grade spirit stones here. Come, big brother, I'll give you some," Xiaoling Yu said, and stuffed the storage magic treasures in his hands into Gu Yunfei's hands. Brother, you can keep these." Gu Yunfei quickly refused. "I won't hide it from big brother. Spirit stones are of no use to me in the future. Even if I need them, there are many ways to get them. Just accept them. If you want to do something, you'll need spirit stones." Xiaoling Yu didn't allow Gu Yunfei to refuse as he stuffed the storage magic treasures into Gu Yunfei's hands and earnestly explained. Spirit stones were useless to Xiaoling Yu. In fact, he had to wait until he reached the chaotic convergence stage. Before that, he still needed an astronomical amount of spirit stones. However, he felt that now that he was strong, he should repay his sworn brother who was not strong in cultivation. In those storage rings, there were not only spirit stones, but also countless cultivation materials, as well as many high-grade magic treasures and elixirs. If all the things in these storage rings were exchanged for top-grade spirit stones, it would definitely be an incomparably rich sum. Brother, in this storage ring, it seems to be full of high-grade goods, and they are all very strange things. I won't be able to use them in a short time. You can keep them." Gu Yunfei naturally wouldn't accept all of them, but seeing his sworn brother's resolute expression, he knew that it was impossible for him to return all of the storage Dharma treasures. Thus, he chose a high-grade storage ring and gave it to Xiaoling Yu as a token of appreciation. "Oh, let me take a look." Xiaoling Yu also knew the meaning of Gu Yunfei. He also wanted to give his sworn brother a way out. It was indeed a bit difficult for him to accept that he had given so many treasures at once. Well, the things inside are really interesting. I will study them in the future. Xiaoling Yu just glanced at it and saw that there were not many top-grade spirit stones in it. There were only some strange things, so he was happy to put it away. Masters of the Deshang realm generally did not like to collect a large number of spirit stones, and ordinary magic treasures and cultivation materials were not of much use to them, so it was normal for them to collect some strange things. The teleportation array was already in front of them, so Xiaoling Yu did not chat with Gu Yunfei anymore. He commanded the demonic beast masters who had only lost 1/3 of their strength to rush towards the teleportation array. At this time, 18 Madam and the other masters had already arrived at the teleportation array. They were hurrying along by constantly teleporting, so they were naturally faster than Xiaoling Yu, who was riding the chasing star. They sealed the teleportation array and only allowed people to teleport in, but did not allow any cultivators to teleport out. Xiaoling Yu knew that it was impossible for him to reach the teleportation array before those masters who could teleport, so he slowly brought a large number of demonic beast masters with him. He was also prepared for a big battle. Without Gu Yunfei in the hands of the other party, Xiaoling Yu could act without scruples. There are so many masters here, I'm afraid we won't have a chance to complete the teleportation array. Gu Yunfei frowned and said as he looked at the many masters who were floating in mid-air at the teleportation array from afar. They looked like they were ready for battle. Whether there's a chance or not, we will only know after we try, Xiaoling Yu said non-committally. When approaching the teleportation array, Xiaoling Yu asked the icy soul heavenly silkworm to come out, and at the same time, he ordered the demonic beasts to attack. Nearly 400 crossing calamity stage demonic beasts and more than 20 Dashang realm demonic beasts launched an attack together. The momentum on their bodies gathered together like a hurricane, as if a divine mountain hundreds of millions of feet high had collapsed in front of the teleportation array. The masters who were guarding the teleportation array all looked serious. Only a few loose immortals and loose devils with stronger cultivations were able to keep their expressions unchanged, but they were somewhat shocked in their hearts. These cultivators had fought with a large number of demonic beast masters in Namping Town before, so they knew how violent and ferocious these demonic beasts were. Moreover, they were united and could form a joint force. However, the human cultivators came from different places and had different thoughts. It was undoubtedly a fool's dream to want to work together. Facing the attack of the demonic beast group head-on was definitely courting death. Even masters like Ant 18 would not do such a stupid thing. The cultivators who were originally scattered around the teleportation array dispersed to both sides. They were much further away from the teleportation array and the position of the demonic beast group's attack. The demonic beast group directly rushed to the teleportation array and then surrounded the teleportation array according to Xiaoling Yu's instructions. Xiaoling Yu and Gu Yunfei had been following behind the demonic beast group, and at this time, they also arrived at the teleportation array. "Everyone, let's go together. We can't let that kid teleport away." 18 Madam shouted in the air, and then took the lead to rush to the teleportation array. Uncle Luo and the sword cultivator woman followed closely behind. Encouraged by 18 Madam's words, more than half of the masters braced themselves and rushed over, including the supreme elder of the dragon subduing valley. Chapter 65. After Xiaoling Yu and the icy soul heavenly silkworm showed their prowess, the demonic beasts released their powers together and condensed a defensive light barrier that enveloped the teleportation array. With so many demonic beast experts working together to create a defensive barrier, it was actually enough to hold on for a while, allowing Xiaoling Yu to calmly leave. After all, the time needed to activate the teleportation array was not very long. However, the female sword cultivator charged through the demonic beast's defense and swept away the attacks from Xiaoling Yu and the icy soul heavenly silkworm. She arrived near Xiaoling Yu and Gu Yunfei and disrupted Xiaoling Yu's plan. "Big brother, teleport away first. I'll block this girl." Xiaoling Yu instructed Gu Yunfei, then rushed towards the female sword cultivator with the phoenix feather in hand. The icy soul heavenly silkworm also commanded its snow-white tentacles to dance around Xiaoling Yu. The female sword cultivator seemed to have never known fear. The immortal sword in her hand flashed with a cold light and constantly hummed. With a light wave, countless sword rays flashed and shot toward Xiaoling Yu. However, they were all blocked by the icy soul heavenly silkworm's white tentacles. Gu Yunfei hesitated for a moment, then turned and entered the teleportation array. Then, the teleportation array that was enveloped by a thick light barrier shone with a dazzling white light. After a series of rumbles, Gu Yunfei was sent to another cultivation continent. During the teleportation process, Gu Yunfei thought about how his brother was still fighting alone and how he was unable to provide any help. Instead, he retreated without fighting. He was really ashamed. With this thought, Gu Yunfei's desire to become stronger became even stronger. "Good brother, just you wait. One day, I will become a true expert like you. I will fight alongside you and no longer need your protection." Gu Yunfei thought to himself as the teleportation was about to end. Xiaoling Yu did not have the time to think so much. After Gu Yunfei's teleportation ended, he began to continuously wave the phoenix feather, causing waves of scorching fire waves to collide and entangle with the other party's sword light like sharp crescent blades. The icy soul heavenly silkworm also suddenly exerted its strength. Not only did it continuously spew out waves of cold wind that carried coldness, at the same time, it also wrapped countless tentacles around the young sword cultivator girl's body. The defensive light shield constructed by the demonic beast masters was under the fierce attack of 18 maidens and the other masters. It was on the verge of collapsing at any time. Bing Bing, tie this girl up. Xiao Yu was anxious, so she shouted at the icy soul heavenly silkworm. The icy soul heavenly silkworm had already arranged its countless tentacles around the sword cultivator girl's body, waiting for Xiao Yu's order. It could have tried to tie up the opponent long ago. Xiao Yu had seen the sword cultivator girl's powerful attack power. Earlier, he did not dare to let the icy soul heavenly silkworm use its full strength because he was afraid that the opponent's counterattack would affect Gu Yunfei's teleportation. Now, he naturally did not have that concern. Suddenly, the countless snow-white tentacles were circular in shape. They flew around the sword cultivator girl's body and then suddenly contracted. The sword cultivator girl squinted her eyes and let out a delicate shout again. Her expression was cold. She waved her hand and threw her immortal sword above her head. Then, she silently chanted a spell. The immortal sword immediately began to expand and spin continuously. The sword cultivator girl's vision and spiritual sense had been completely isolated. She and her immortal sword were also trapped in a snow-white cocoon. However, she still did not have the slightest bit of fear. She only had the confidence that she could charge out. However, she did not know that when her immortal sword and the white cocoon that was as solid as an immortal weapon were attacking each other, she had already been brought into the teleportation array by Xiao Yu. Xiao Yu did not want to bring her away, but only the icy soul heavenly silkworm could suppress her. However, Xiao Yu could not give up on the icy soul heavenly silkworm. He also did not dare to wait for the icy soul heavenly silkworm to finish her off. Therefore, he could only bring her along to the teleportation array. After all, she was holding an immortal sword. It would be very difficult for the icy soul heavenly silkworm to subdue or kill her in a short period of time. First, he filled the teleportation array with spiritual stones. Then, he set the teleportation location on the astrolabe of the teleportation array. After that, he only needed to lightly tap on the astrolabe, and the teleportation could begin immediately. Xiao Yu did not have time to consider where he was going to be teleported to. He casually tapped on the light spot on the astrolabe. Then, the teleportation array began to rumble. A ray of white light completely enveloped everything in the teleportation array. However, just as Xiao Yu's body began to shake violently and the teleportation was about to begin, the defensive light shield built by the demonic beast experts could not hold on any longer. It suddenly shattered. A ray of immortal light shot out by 18 Madam also flew toward the teleportation array. The teleportation array had already been activated. It suddenly shone with a dazzling white light. However, it was then hit by the ray of immortal light. At the same time, it began to be teleported while trembling violently. Xiao Yu was quite frightened. However, the teleportation had already begun. He could only pray for himself. After a boom, Xiao Yu, the icy soul heavenly silkworm, and the sword cultivator woman wrapped in the white cocoon all disappeared from the teleportation array. 18 Madam and the other experts rushed to the teleportation array. However, they could only wave their hands and bombard the ground in exasperation. As for the demonic beasts, after completing their mission, they fled toward the ancient desolate forest. They no longer had the slightest intention to fight with the human experts. Xiao Yu had already left the Feiyu continent. Everyone had no reason to stay. After the demonic beasts had fled, they entered the teleportation array one after another with ugly expressions. "What should we do?" Luo Bo asked a little anxiously. "Don't panic. Anya has already comprehended the realm of the heart integrated into sword. She also has the immortal sword. Although that brat has many powerful techniques, he can't do anything to her. I reckon that after the teleportation is over, Anya will kill that brat. Let's wait for a while and then send a message to Anya to ask. 18 Madam said calmly. That icy soul heavenly silkworm seems to have recognized that brat as its master. Moreover, it has also made quite a bit of progress. It's really unexpected, Luo Bo said with a sigh. For the icy soul heavenly silkworm to recognize that brat as its master, it's either that brat's cultivation is special or that brat has some noble bloodline. Just the immortal weapon in his hand is not enough to make the icy soul heavenly silkworm submit. If we can't take him down, if possible, we should take him into the alliance. It's also a good thing, 18 Madam said calmly. Luo Bo and Ping Er both nodded silently. They had already been impressed by Xiao Lingyu's speed of improvement. After a cup of tea's time, 18 Madam took out a supreme quality messaging spiritual pearl and sent out a message. However, she did not receive a reply from Anya. 18 Madam's face was a little ugly. After an hour, she sent out another message, but she still did not receive a reply. After another 4 hours, 18 Madam, with a gloomy face, tried to contact Anya again. However, she still did not receive any reply. She could only rely on the soul imprint that Anya left in the messaging spiritual pearl to determine that Anya did not encounter any mishap. Things have gotten out of hand, Lady 18 said worriedly. What's wrong? When Luo Bo heard 18 Madam say that, his heart could not help but skip a beat. It was the first time he heard 18 Madam speak in such a worried tone. Anya hasn't sent a message back for so long. I'm afraid that she's trapped. Or maybe my last attack on the teleportation array caused an accident in their teleportation. They are most likely trapped in the spatial turbulence, 18 Madam explained. It's possible. The scariest thing about an interstellar teleportation is that someone will attack the teleportation array during the teleportation, Ping Er replied. If something happens to Anya, we'll just have to wait to be buried with her, 18 Madam said bitterly. Although 18 Madam did not say it, Ping Er and Luo Bo knew that Anya's identity was definitely not simple. If her identity was simple, how could she have reached the realm of heart integrated into sword when she was only in the middle stage of tribulation passing stage? Asterisk, 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 after a moment of dizziness, the teleportation ended. Xiao Lingyu was relatively lucky. This time, the teleportation was affected at the last moment, but it only shifted the target location. After the teleportation ended, Xiao Lingyu and the icy soul heavenly silkworm that trapped Anya were in a teleportation array in a desert. What surprised Xiao Lingyu was that this teleportation array did not build a square. There was not even a single cultivator waiting to be teleported outside the teleportation array. Under normal circumstances, most of the teleportation arrays in the cultivation world were places where cultivators gathered. It would not be so empty. It's better if there's no one. Xiao Lingyu directly walked out of the teleportation array and said to the icy soul heavenly silkworm, "Since you can't hold on anymore, let her out." When the icy soul heavenly silkworm heard that, it immediately loosened its feelers. Suddenly, a mighty and sharp sword intense soared into the sky. An immortal sword soared into the sky and then expanded to 100 feet. It circled and danced in the air, seeming a little violent. This kind of high-level Dharma treasure had very strong spirituality. After being suppressed and sealed for so long, it was inevitable that it would have such an anxious expression. Little girl, I have no enmity with you. You don't lack immortal weapons, and your strength is incomparably powerful. Why are you making things difficult for me? Without waiting for Anya to make a move, Xiao Lingyu spoke first. Who cares about your immortal weapon? I'm here for the icy soul heavenly silkworm. If you're willing to cede the icy soul heavenly silkworm to me, I'll immediately turn around and leave, Anya said coldly. This is a bit too much. You also saw that little ice, and I have a very good relationship. It's very obedient and likes to be with me. Why do you have to say goodbye to such a cute little fellow? Even if you want to fight, you might not be able to win against me. If both of us are injured, it won't be good for either of us, Xiao Lingyu said with seemingly sincerity. If you didn't have the icy soul heavenly silkworm to help you, would you be my opponent? Anya said, very unconvinced. Little Ice recognized me as its master, so it naturally has to help me. To be able to take in such a powerful pet, isn't that a skill? If you don't have the immortal sword, how powerful do you think you can be? Xiao Yu replied in the same tone. Chapter 66. Okay. Xiao Yu only hesitated for a moment before he agreed in an extremely straightforward manner. After that, he continued. However, since you're unconvinced and insist on competing with me, it can't be that simple. If you win, you'll definitely be able to take away the Ice Soul Heavenly Silkworm. If I win, you can directly leave. I won't be able to obtain any benefits at all. That's not fair. Then what do you want? Anya asked with a frown. If I win, Xiao Yu suddenly didn't know what he should say. After a pause, his eyes glanced at the immortal sword in the sky. No, everything else can be discussed, but not this immortal sword. It was given to me by my master. It's also the sword that he used to roam the cultivation world. Even if I lose my life, I can't lose his sword. Anya seemed to have seen through Xiao Yu's thoughts. Without waiting for Xiao Yu to make a request, she had already made it clear. If that's the case, then I don't want your immortal sword. If I win, let me kiss you. Xiao Yu nodded and said. Perhaps she was angered by Xiao Yu's confident look. Anya's bright red mouth twitched a few times before she said, Okay, let's do it. The reason why she agreed to Xiao Yu's boring and rude request was that Anya was extremely confident in her own strength. She didn't believe that a cultivator who had only cultivated for a little more than 10 years could defeat her without any external help. At this moment, it was also the first time that 18 Madam sent a message to Anya. However, Anya didn't pay any attention to it at all. The battle was imminent, and she didn't want to give the other party an opportunity to take advantage of her by reading the message. When Xiao Yu made that request, he didn't have any other intentions. He didn't want to take advantage of her, nor did he have a crush on her. He just felt that this girl was beautiful, but had an unapproachable look. This made him very curious. If such an icy beauty was kissed by a man, what kind of expression would she have? Would her pride directly disappear by half? Xiao Yu's situation was actually similar to Anya's. Both of them were in the late stage of the tribulation passing stage, and both of them were in the middle stage of the tribulation passing stage. Anya believed that her sword elemental energy was invincible. With her heart integrated in his sword, even if she did not have a sword in her hand, she could still use sword moves and sword techniques. Xiao Yu believed that her chaotic energy was enough to make her invincible among the experts in the same stage. Her chaotic energy also had extremely strong offensive and defensive power. Most importantly, the chaotic seal was definitely not something that could be blocked by any cultivator in the tribulation passing stage without external help. Both of them were extremely confident. In order to prevent the battle from being interrupted, they distanced themselves from the teleportation array. After flying for a long time, they were still in a desert, as if there were only deserts in this world. After stopping, Xiao Yu and Anya did not dawdle at all. They immediately rushed towards each other. In the sky, a blue and red rainbow light and a bright white rainbow light collided fiercely, but they separated as soon as they touched. After their palms collided, the two of them flew back several hundred feet before they could stabilize their bodies. However, there was a hint of surprise in their expressions. They didn't think that the other party's martial arts would be so profound and of such high quality. You're pretty good. Xiao Yu praised from the bottom of his heart. Oomph. It's not up to you to comment. Let's fight again. Anya said ungratefully. The two of them fought fiercely in mid-air in the desert, constantly consuming their own power. They had been fighting for more than 4 hours, but there was still no winner, so Anya did not reply to 18's message. However, gradually, the advantage of Xiao Yu's higher quality body began to show. Every time he clashed, his meridians and body would suffer a great impact. However, his body was of extremely high quality. Not only did it have a good ability to resist attacks, but it also recovered at a faster rate. Anya was already bleeding from the corner of her mouth, and some tendons in her body were broken. She was not seriously injured, but she knew that if she continued to fight like this, she would be the one to lose. However, if she did not use the immortal sword to launch ordinary sword moves and sword techniques, it would be difficult for her to threaten her opponent's defense shield, which was made of unknown energy. Let's decide the winner with one move. If we continue to fight like this, no one could do anything to each other. It's too boring. Anya suddenly stopped and suggested to Shaoling Yu. Haha, if I don't agree, you won't be satisfied when you lose. Okay, I'll do as you say. One move to decide the winner. Shaoling Yu could naturally see that he had the upper hand. If they continued to fight, he would definitely win. However, she was a girl after all, so it was not a big deal to give her a chance. If she could win the Seal of Chaos without the help of the Immortal Sword, then the 9-revolution Chaos formula would not be called a **T godly code. Anya did not argue with Shaoling Yu. Instead, she began to increase her momentum and prepare calmly. Sword Light came out of nowhere and gathered around Anya. In the blink of an eye, there were no less than 10,000 Sword Lights, and all of them were flying rapidly. The violent and powerful momentum formed a hurricane, raging in the desert. The sand and stones here were rolled up by the wind, and the sky was filled with sand like a sea of sand. No wonder you need my permission to decide the winner with one move. It turns out that you need a period of time to prepare. It just so happens that my Seal of Chaos is not proficient enough, so I also need a period of time to prepare. Shaoling Yu glanced at Anya and did not think too much about it. Her 10 fingers began to rapidly form seals, and a circle of blue and red yin-yang fish slowly appeared in front of her. Shaoling Yu's power continued to pour into the yin-yang fish, causing the yin-yang fish to become more and more solid. Unlike Anya, Shaoling Yu's Seal of Chaos did not have much movement during the process of condensing. However, if one were to judge the power of the Seal of Chaos from this, then it would be a huge mistake. 8 extreme powers, 6 directions move the heavens. Star brilliance breaks the heavens. Anya, who was in the wind, shouted loudly, and then suddenly opened her arms. The sword lights that gathered around her immediately flew in all directions. For a moment, Anya's side actually quieted down. The wind was no longer there. The sword lights and the flying sand were also no longer there. However, Anya's delicate and beautiful face was deathly pale as she continuously spat out a few mouthfuls of dark red blood. However, in order to see the result, Anya forced herself to maintain her tottering body. Her pair of tired, beautiful eyes were fixed on Shaoling Yu. When Shaoling Yu saw that the situation on Anya's side suddenly changed, he originally thought that the other party had failed to forcefully activate the big move. However, a moment later, he felt 6 fierce and domineering sword intents flying towards him from 6 different directions. Only then did he know that the other party's big move had not failed. When Shaoling Yu fully activated his spiritual awareness, he quickly realized that there were 6 meteor-like sword lights that were locked onto him and flying towards him. Moreover, the 6 sword lights were not weak at all. This was because as they flew, the space around them fluctuated violently. F***CK, why are there 6 attacks? I only prepared 1 Seal of Chaos. How am I supposed to block them? Seeing that the 6 sword lights were about to hit him, Shaoling Yu finally panicked. It was impossible for him to use 5 Seals of Chaos in such a short time. In a moment of desperation, Shaoling Yu let the chaotic nascent soul out of his body. This was because the chaotic nascent soul also knew how to use the Seal of Chaos. Moreover, every time Shaoling Yu used the Seal of Chaos, the chaotic nascent soul would also make a Seal of Chaos in his dantian. After the primal chaos nascent soul came out, the 6 streaks of sword light were already in front of them like meteors. Shaoling Yu and the primal chaos nascent soul used the primal chaos seal at the same time. The 2 primal chaos seals easily dispersed 4 streaks of sword light. As for the remaining 2 streaks of sword light, Xiaoling Yu and the primal chaos nascent soul could only block one each. The chaotic nascent soul was the center of Xiaoling Yu's energy. It was able to mobilize most of Xiaoling Yu's power in an instant and easily blocked one of the sword lights. However, Xiaoling Yu's body was unable to completely block the last sword light. The last sword light pierced through his shoulder. The chaotic nascent soul returned to his dantian and quickly directed its power to his shoulder, suppressing the sword elemental energy that was wreaking havoc in his muscles and flesh. Even though he was hit, Xiao Lingyu's body swayed for a while, but he still held on. "I won," Anya said. "Why do you say that?" Xiao Lingyu forced a smile and asked. "My attack hurt you." "Naturally, you lost," Anya said confidently. "Oh, did we have a deal like this before?" "We only said that one move would determine the winner and loser. Each of us used one move. You used 6 sword chi attacks while I used 2 sets of hand seals. If you can still receive my next 4 hand seals, then I'll consider my loss. Although I'm injured, I still have the strength to fight. What about you?" Xiao Lingyu shook his head and said reasonably, "You're cheating," Anya said angrily. "We've fought for so long. I think you know very well who won and who lost," Xiao Lingyu said seriously. Anya's eyes, which were originally looking directly at Xiao Lingyu, flickered a few times. She was obviously a little guilty. "I won. At least I won that move just now," Anya said unhappily. "Now that you don't have the strength to fight anymore, I still have at least 30% of my strength. Moreover, I still have the icy soul heavenly silkworm." "Don't be so stubborn," Xiao Lingyu said with a smile. "This can only be considered a draw," Anya said coldly. "If it's a draw, then so be it," Xiao Lingyu said indifferently. Anya heard this and felt a little relieved. Then, she could no longer suppress the injuries that she had caused by forcefully activating the sword technique. She fell from the sky and began to meditate with her legs crossed. The reason why they wanted a draw was that Anya was worried that Xiao Lingyu would bring up the previous bet. She was afraid that Xiao Lingyu would insist on kissing her. However, to Anya's surprise, Xiao Lingyu, who was about to leave, suddenly came to her side. Xiao Lingyu held a handkerchief in his hand and helped Anya wipe the blood from the corner of her mouth. "I won't thank you. In fact, I think that we're still enemies. What you did is very annoying," Anya said with a frown. "Hee, you don't have to thank me. I only wiped your mouth for myself," Xiao Lingyu said with a dry laugh. "What?" Anya frowned. Chapter 67. Anya's injuries were too severe. Even though she was being violated by Xiao Lingyu, she could not resist. She could only watch as Xiao Lingyu left after cursing him for being shameless. "How dare you steal my first kiss, Xiao Lingyu? You will definitely regret this," Anya said fiercely as she punched the sand with her fist. However, Anya's most important task now was to quickly heal her injuries. Xiao Lingyu did not go to the teleportation array. He also needed to quickly heal his injuries. Furthermore, he had not searched this place yet. He did not set target. He just let the star fly in a straight line while Xiao Lingyu meditated inside the star. Xiao Lingyu did not expend much of his energy. What he needed to heal was the sword wound on his shoulder. Originally, for a cultivator like Xiao Lingyu who had an extremely high-quality fleshly body, injuries to his fleshly body were not a big problem. However, there was a large amount of Anya's sword elemental energy remaining in Xiao Lingyu's body. Xiao Lingyu had to dispel or expel the domineering and aggressive sword elemental energy from his body in order to fully recover. If an ordinary cultivator had been invaded by such domineering energy, their life force would have been destroyed by the sword elemental energy in an extremely short period of time. Only the nascent soul could leave the body to cultivate as an itinerant immortal. However, Xiao Lingyu was not an ordinary cultivator. The chaotic energy in his body was comparable to immortal spiritual energy. In terms of quality, it was definitely not inferior to the sword elemental energy. Hence, he could control the sword elemental energy. The sword elemental energy was also not much inferior to the chaotic energy that Xiao Lingyu currently possessed. If Xiao Yu wanted to expel or destroy the sword elemental energy, it would not be done in a short period of time. What surprised Xiao Yu was that after meditating for less than an hour, he had only managed to expel a small portion of the sword elemental energy. However, the star had already flown into the starry sky. Xiao Yu looked back and was shocked to find that the place he had just been was actually a planet and not a cultivation continent. That's right. This should be a transit planet. No wonder I didn't see any cultivators near the teleportation array when I came here. Xiao Yu thought for a while and said with a sudden realization. Xiao Yu hurriedly told the star to turn around. Since this was not a cultivation continent, he had no plans to stay. The so-called transit planet was a place where the distance between two cultivation continents was too far. Therefore, a transit station was set up in the middle. Generally speaking, a transit planet was a deserted planet without any living creatures. Not only was it not suitable for cultivators to stay and cultivate, it was also not suitable for mortals to live there. That's not right. Even if the two cultivation continents are far apart, there should be countless cultivators traveling between them every day. The teleportation array of this transit planet should not be so empty. Xiao Yu suddenly shook his head and said with a puzzled expression. Soon, Xiao Yu arrived at the teleportation array and entered it. When he saw that there were only 2 coordinates on the astrolabe, his frown deepened. This was indeed a transit planet, and it could only teleport to 2 cultivation continents. Xiao Yu did not immediately enter the teleportation array. Instead, he waited outside the teleportation array and continued to deal with the sword elemental energy on his shoulder. After an entire day, Xiao Yu had already neutralized 1/3 of the sword elemental energy. However, he did not see a single cultivator appear in the teleportation array. From this, it could be seen that there were not many exchanges between the 2 cultivation continents connected by the transmission formation of this transit planet. There were actually many reasons for this situation. For example, the transmission formation of one of the cultivation continents was broken, or one of the cultivation continents was a place that no one cared about at all, or the 2 cultivation continents belonged to 2 different hostile forces. Xiao Yu guessed that the female sword cultivator would arrive soon. After all, such an expert would definitely have very good healing pills. He did not want to continue fighting with the female sword cultivator. Therefore, he did not continue to observe. After entering the teleportation array again, he randomly chose one of the 2 coordinates and fiercely knocked on it with his finger. Suddenly, the teleportation array roared and shone with a dazzling white light. Then, Xiao Yu's body disappeared from the teleportation array. After a moment of dizziness, Xiao Yu's body appeared in another teleportation array. However, there were many cultivators around this teleportation array. It was clearly different from the emptiness around the teleportation array on the transit planet. After glancing outside the teleportation array, Xiao Yu's expression became even more suspicious. This was because the cultivators around this teleportation array were all wearing bright armor. They were all wearing the same standard black armor, and each of them held a long spear that looked like it was made of black iron. They looked extraordinarily mighty, just like an army in the secular world. Moreover, there were no cultivators waiting in front of the teleportation array. The cultivators who looked like soldiers surrounded the teleportation array tightly. Their eyes were also fixed on the teleportation array. When they looked at Xiao Yu, they were all very curious and surprised. Xiao Yu slowly walked out of the teleportation array. However, his heart immediately pounded wildly. This was because he could clearly feel that there were countless tyrannical auras connected together to form a very heavy and oppressive aura. Moreover, the surroundings seemed to be filled with a strong murderous intent and the smell of blood. What was going on? Xiao Yu was a little confused, but he was sure that these cultivators who looked like soldiers were definitely people who had been on a battlefield for a long time. The murderous intent on their bodies was not directed at him, but was accumulated from years of killing. At this time, it was only faintly overflowing. Xiao Yu smiled kindly at everyone and then prepared to leave. However, this place was surrounded and there was no way out. It seemed that if he wanted to leave, these cultivators would have to agree. Not long after, a middle-aged cultivator with a burly figure and a scar on his face walked out from the group of cultivators. He first glanced at Xiao Lingyu in confusion, but he was unable to see through Xiao Lingyu's cultivation. Then he frowned. "Fellow Taoist, did you come from the Radiance continent?" The scar-faced cultivator asked Xiao Lingyu. No. I came here because of an accident when I took the teleportation array from the Feiyu continent," Xiao Lingyu answered vaguely. "Feiyu continent?" The scar-faced cultivator tilted his head and thought about it, but he was still very unfamiliar with this cultivation continent. However, he did not think too much about it, and then asked, "Why did you come to our darkness continent? If there's nothing else, please leave quickly. The darkness continent does not welcome cultivators from other continents to travel." This time, it was Xiao Lingyu's turn to frown. After pondering for a moment, he said, "I'm traveling to various continents in the cultivation world to look for people. Since I'm here, please allow me to search. If there's no result, I'll leave immediately. Please make an exception. Since you're looking for people, you'll definitely need a lot of time. You'll also need to walk around our darkness continent." "This is impossible." The scar-faced cultivator shook his head. "Haha, fellow Taoist, you're mistaken. I don't need to search the entire darkness continent. I only need 100 breaths time," Xiao Lingyu said with a smile, and took out the tracking spirit mirror at the same time. Although the scar-faced cultivator was puzzled, he did not say anything. He just silently took 2 steps back and looked as if he was letting Xiao Lingyu do whatever he wanted. Xiao Lingyu began to form hand seals and then projected the images of his parents and Gu Xiaomin into the tracking spirit mirror. "It's the tracking spirit mirror." The scar-faced cultivator was very surprised when he saw Xiao Lingyu's entire process of casting the spell. His expression also became serious. After casting the spell, Xiao Lingyu's expression was filled with disappointment. There were no traces of his relatives or friends in the darkness continent. "I've finished searching and will leave now. Goodbye." Xiao Lingyu put away the tracking spirit mirror, cupped his fists, and prepared to leave. "Hold on." The scar-faced cultivator suddenly called out. "What's the matter?" Xiao Lingyu did not turn around and asked in confusion. "Of course." The scar-faced cultivator sneered and then shouted, "Take down this black blood demon spy." Black blood demon? Xiao Lingyu instantly understood. These people must have used the tracking spirit mirror to determine that he was a black blood demon spy. After all, the tracking spirit mirror was a unique item of the black blood demon. However, before Xiao Lingyu could explain, the surrounding cultivators had already leveled the spears in their hands and stabbed toward his body. Xiao Lingyu suddenly stomped his feet on the ground and rose from the ground. The aura of a late-stage nascent soul cultivator surged out and blocked all the black iron spears. "Brothers, surround him. Don't let him escape." The scar-faced cultivator shouted again and flew into the air at the same time. Hearing his reminder, the cultivators in black armor and holding spears all rose into the air. Xiao Lingyu's injuries had not healed, and his cultivation had not recovered by more than half. He was not used to fighting at the moment, so he waved the phoenix spirit feather and sent out a scorching wave of fire. Wherever the crescent-shaped wave of fire passed, the space fluctuated. The scar-faced cultivator was shocked and immediately dodged to the side. However, the other cultivators in black armor did not react so quickly. When the wave of fire touched their bodies, they were like thin paper in a raging fire and quickly turned into ashes. Boom! In the end, the wave of fire crashed into the ground, creating a trench that was over 1,000 feet long and 70 to 80 feet wide. 80% of the black-armored cultivators who had flown into the sky earlier had died. The remaining 20% were badly wounded and terrified. How could ordinary cultivators imagine the power of an immortal artifact? These ordinary cultivators in black armor were only at the spirit-severing stage. Even the scar-faced cultivator, who seemed to be their leader, was only at the body integration stage. Even if they had more people and Xiao Lingyu was injured, these cultivators would not be able to stop them. After Xiao Lingyu, used the phoenix spirit feather to deter these cultivators. He flew away on the chasing star when they did not dare to charge at him again. Chapter 68. The speed of chasing stars was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, they were far away from the teleportation array of the darkness continent, with no one chasing after them. Xiaoling Yu heaved a sigh of relief and flew towards the starry sky of the darkness continent. He felt that since there were no cultivators in the starry sky, it would be safer than being on the continent. The cultivators on the darkness continent were extremely inhospitable. Why is this place called the darkness continent? It seems like there's also a radiance continent. Xiao Yu was preparing to treat his injuries while pondering. Not long after Xiao Yu left the teleportation array of the darkness continent, Anya also appeared in that teleportation array. The teleportation array on the transit planet could only teleport to 2 target continents. Anya also randomly chose one. She also thought that it might be the same direction as Xiao Yu's teleportation array. She also hoped that this was the case because she hadn't given up. She wanted to take revenge for her lost first kiss. However, what Anya didn't expect was that when she arrived, the first thing she saw was a long gully. Then, she saw cultivators in black armor flying around in panic. The entire teleportation array square was very chaotic, as if it had just experienced a great battle. Seeing that the gully in the square was still emitting flames, Anya narrowed her eyes and smiled. She knew that Xiao Yu was also on this continent. However, what Anya didn't expect was that as soon as she walked out of the teleportation array, she was surrounded by hundreds of cultivators in black armor. Moreover, there was also a great Ascension Stage cultivator who came out with a few Tribulation Stage experts. They sized her up with a strange and vigilant gaze. "Fairy, may I ask where you are from and why are you in our darkness continent?" The Great Ascension Stage cultivator asked. "Darkness continent? A single attribute continent?" Anya asked in surprise. "That's right. This is indeed the darkness continent that only has dark energy." "Fairy, you haven't answered my question yet." The Great Ascension Stage cultivator first nodded in response, and then reminded her. "I'm from the 8-Pole Sword Sect." Anya thought for a moment, and then said proudly, "What proof do you have?" The Grand Ascension cultivator asked. Anya did not answer with words. With a soft cry, thousands of sword lights emerged from her body. Then, she waved one of her arms, and those sword lights instantly gathered into a giant energy sword. During this process, the fierce sword intent fluctuations made even the Mahayana Stage cultivator feel shocked. "I wonder if my sword heart illuminated realm can be considered as proof." Anya waved his hand and threw the energy sword into the sky. He withdrew his aura and asked, "Of course, may I know your name?" The Great Ascension Stage cultivator asked politely. "Anya." Anya replied calmly, "What brings you here, Fairy? Please forgive our rudeness. Just now, a black blood demon expert was causing trouble here with an immortal artifact. I am here to kill him." Anya did not wait for the Deshang Stage cultivator to finish speaking and answered. "Fairy, do you have a grudge against him?" The Grand Ascension cultivator asked again. "Isn't your question a bit too outrageous? Our 8-Pole Sword Sect and the Black Blood Demon have always been at odds. This is something that everyone in the cultivation world knows." Anya replied unhappily. This old man was rude. That Black Blood Demon expert should still be on the Darkness Continent. "Fairy, please do as you wish. However, this old man wants to remind you that that thief has an immortal artifact. Fairy, you have to be careful. I have already sent a message to the main hall. I believe that it won't be long before the main hall sends an expert over. I suggest that Fairy wait for the main hall to send someone over. Then, everyone will move out together and make that thief stay on the Darkness Continent forever." The Great Ascension cultivator kindly reminded, "He and I have fought before. I am very clear about his strength." After Anya finished speaking, she leaped up and flew towards the distance. After Anya left, the Great Ascension cultivator took out a communication spiritual pearl and sent a message to the main hall. "Fifth Elder, please help me contact the person in charge of the Eight Poles Sword sect. Ask them if they have a female disciple called Anya who is in the middle stage of the tribulation passing stage. After Anya was far away from the transmission array of the darkness continent, she stopped for a moment. She closed her eyes in the air and began to feel carefully. Around 10 minutes later, Anya opened her eyes, and a wisp of a complacent smile appeared on the corners of her mouth. She muttered to herself, "How can my sword origin energy be so easy to refine? So long as my sword origin energy is within your body, then I'll be able to find you easily." Then, Anya flew towards the direction she sensed at full speed. However, after flying for a while, Anya suddenly stopped and said, "Even if I find that shameless person, how can I take revenge? His strength is not much worse than mine. Even if I can defeat him in a one-on-one fight, I will not feel good. Maybe when the time comes, both of us will be injured. By the way, I can use the forces on the darkness continent to besiege him. With my strength, coupled with the masters of the darkness continent, dealing with him is absolutely a cinch." Thinking of this, Anya showed a smug look on her face. She turned around and flew in the direction of the transmission array. At the edge of the transmission array, Anya landed in front of the Great Ascension Cultivator and said, "I can find the thief of the Black Blood Demon. Are you willing to come with me to arrest him?" The Great Ascension Cultivator did not expect Anya to come back, but when he heard Anya say so, he hesitated a little and nodded. "Of course, I am willing to go. I will call some people. Fairy, please wait a moment. And go. But don't bring cultivators below the crossing tribulation stage. They won't be able to help. It's best to bring experts who can set up the Dark Seal formation." Anya nodded and instructed. It only took the Great Ascension Cultivator 100 breaths to find 2 Great Ascension Cultivators and 8 crossing tribulation stage cultivators. "Fairy Anya, if we can wait for the masters of the main hall to come, it will be easier for us to take down the thief of the Black Blood Demon," the Great Ascension Cultivator suggested. "We can't wait. If we wait any longer, the thief will have escaped with your information before the people of the main hall come." Anya shook her head and said, "Fairy's consideration is very good. Then please lead the way," the Great Ascension Cultivator said. Anya did not dawdle. She was worried that if she delayed for too long, Shaoling Yu would refine all of her sword elemental energy. At that time, it would be very difficult for her to find Shaoling Yu. At this time, Shaoling Yu was still flying in the sky of the Dark Continent on the chasing star, but he did not know that Anya had brought a large number of masters to kill him. There are still a few strands of sword elemental energy left. As long as I kill them all, I can quickly recover. That girl's big move is really very powerful. Shaoling Yu rested for a while. After saying that, he found that he was flying over an endless sea. What surprised him was that the sea was not blue, but pitch black. It was as if the entire sea was made of ink. This was not the main point. What surprised Shaoling Yu even more was that after flying over the sea, the speed of the chasing star decreased by more than half, and there was even a tendency to fall. The gravity here seems to be stronger. The density of the sea below is actually higher than the mud and stones on the continent. Shaoling Yu was very surprised, but he did not stop chasing the chasing star. After flying over the Black Sea for about an hour, Shaoling Yu, who was closing his eyes to recuperate, suddenly felt that his body was falling rapidly. He hurriedly opened his eyes and looked around. Right now, Zhuai Xing was like a meteorite from outer space, falling toward the darkness continent. Shaoling Yu looked down and saw an island that wasn't considered too small in size. That island was like the sea, completely pitch black. Not only were the rocks and soil black, but even the trees and flowers on it were also black. The originally quiet black sea became extremely violent near this island. Layers of black waves that were hundreds of feet tall surged over from afar, fiercely crashing against the reefs and cliffs of the island, emitting earth-shattering roars. No matter how hard Shaoling Yu tried, he was unable to stabilize the chasing star. Helpless, he could only keep the chasing star, but his body still fell like a meteor, crashing fiercely against the black rocks on the shore of the island. With such a falling speed, coupled with Xiao Lingyu's body that was comparable to a mid-grade spirit weapon, he was unable to smash the rocks below him. It could be seen that the ordinary rocks on this island were also incomparably hard and were also considered a very good material for refining weapons. Whoosh! Boom! The waves crashed against the shore, and the pitch-black sea water drenched Xiao Lingyu, who had yet to leave the rocks on the shore. A pungent smell of seawater poured into Xiao Lingyu's nose, causing him to sneeze. "This feels great. I haven't sneezed in a long time," Xiao Lingyu said in satisfaction as he stood up. However, just as he stood up, Xiao Lingyu couldn't help but shiver again. This was because he felt that his body was a little chilly. "What a strange place," Xiao Lingyu said with a frown. He tried to leap into the air, but he was only 30 feet above the ground before he was unable to continue upwards. The gravity of the ground here was extremely strong, as if there were countless vines binding his feet, or as if there was a huge mountain pressing down on his head. Even a supreme-grade flying spirit weapon couldn't fly over this island. So Xiao Lingyu couldn't fly too high or too fast with his body. "Since I'm here, I might as well take things as they come. I better take a look at this strange island first. Who knows, I might gain something." After comforting himself, Xiao Lingyu dragged his feet toward the center of the island. Chapter 69. No, if that thief leaves halfway, we will miss a good opportunity. Anya shook her head and said, "Fairy can rest assured. This Black Dragon Bay is not an ordinary place. Once he comes here, it will not be so easy for him to leave. The gravity here is very strong. Even if it is a superb spiritual weapon, it is difficult to fly across the sky. Once it accidentally flies over an island, it will fall directly. Maybe before we do anything, those violent black dragons will kill him." A Deshang stage cultivator explained with a smile. "How do you know that he was not sent by the Black Blood Demon to collude with these black dragons? Once they reach an agreement, this dark continent will become a branch of the Black Blood Demon," Anya said with a sneer. The Deshang stage cultivator was speechless. "It is not impossible. These black flood dragons have always refused to accept the jurisdiction of the main hall. They run amok in this Black Dragon Bay and have never given us a good face. Those who are not of our race must have a different heart." A great Ascension stage cultivator who looked steady said, "I will send a message to the main hall elders first. Let them negotiate with the Black Dragon Powerhouse, and then we will go in to find him. If those black dragons do not allow it, it can prove that they are indeed disloyal. If they agree, we can make it in time. Without the help of the Black Dragon Powerhouse, it is impossible for the Black Blood Demon Thief to leave the Black Dragon Bay quickly." The Deshang stage cultivator, who first met Anya next to the transmission array, said very calmly. After a series of messages, Anya and the others were able to move forward, and shortly after entering the Black Dragon Bay, a Deshang stage black dragon emerged from the water. It was not here to guide or lead the way for everyone, but to keep an eye on them. As long as Anya and the others did anything wrong, it would immediately issue a dragon alarm, and a large number of black dragon powerhouses would come. At this time, Xiao Lingyu had already reached the center of the island and saw a valley surrounded by mountains on all sides. At the entrance of the valley, there were layers of restrictions, and the entire valley was surrounded by a supreme-grade spiritual array. Xiao Lingyu arrived at the entrance of the valley and saw a tall and straight stone wall with the words Black Dragon Tomb engraved on it. Black Dragon Mound. So it was a cemetery, a black dragon's cemetery. This was obviously a forbidden area. Xiao Lingyu, who was very unfamiliar with this place, did not dare to act rashly. She immediately circled around the valley and explored the other parts of the island. At this time, Anya and the others also arrived outside the island, but just as they were about to enter the island, the black dragons of the Mahayana realm that had been following them flew out of the sea, dragging its body of more than 2,000 feet, like a steel wall on the shore of the island. It looked up at the black dragon head and said, "This is the forbidden area of the Black Dragon clan. Cultivators who are not black dragons are not allowed to enter. Please take a detour. But the person we're looking for is in your forbidden area? Anya squinted her beautiful eyes and said, That's not possible, unless the Great Elder agrees. The black dragon of the Mahayana realm said firmly. The Great Elder it mentioned was the black dragon powerhouse with the cultivation of 5 tribulations loose demon. I'll send a message to the main hall. A cultivator of the Mahayana realm said to Anya. Not long after, 2 more black dragons of the Mahayana realm came from the sea, and they said to the black dragon on the shore, Emole, the Great Elder asked us to go in with these human cultivators. Mo gang, are you mistaken? This is the forbidden area of our clan. The black dragon of the Mahayana realm, called Emole, asked in disbelief. I'm not mistaken. Get out of the way. Even if you give me 100 guts, we won't dare to fake the decree of the Great Elder. Another black dragon of the Mahayana realm said. Hearing this, Emole curled up his body angrily and got out of the way. And these 3 masters of the Mahayana realm of the Black Dragon clan, after Anya and others entered the island, each of them transformed into a human. They were all wearing majestic dragon scale armors, but they were obviously different from human cultivators. They had 2 black dragon horns on their heads that were many times smaller, and their figures were more burly. They were all more than 2 meters tall. Standing side by side, they looked arrogant and domineering like 3 proud war gods. Under the surveillance of the 3 masters of the Mahayana realm of the Black Dragon, Anya and others moved quickly in the direction of Xiaoling Yu. Xiaoling Yu still didn't know that his whereabouts were exposed, let alone where he was. He just wandered around the island. After circling around, Xiaoling Yu didn't have the slightest harvest, and he didn't think of how to leave here quickly. It was definitely impossible to fly away. He could only fly out of the island first, and then fly close to the sea for a while before he could ride the Star Chaser. Since there was no opportunity here, Xiaoling Yu didn't have anything to stay. But when he made up his mind to leave the island first, Anya and others had already come with the 3 masters of the Black Dragon. Feeling the aura of the masters gradually approaching from afar, Xiaoling Yu's mood became nervous. When he saw that Anya was among them, his expression became even more interesting. What's wrong? You were kissed. Are you trying to blame me? Xiaoling Yu licked his lips and said with a smile, as if he was savoring the aftertaste. Oomph. Black blood demon, shameless villain. Let's see how you escape today. Anya said with a cold expression. I'm not a member of the Black Blood Demon, but if you insist that I am, I have nothing to explain. Of course, if you're here to find trouble with me, I can tell you very responsibly that you'd better run away quickly. I won't show mercy every time. Xiaoling Yu said with a lazy but confident look. You should find a place to brag. The wind is strong here. Be careful not to bite your tongue. I alone can fight you to a draw. With the addition of the experts from the Dark Continent and a few experts from the Black Flood Dragon clan, do you think you can escape by luck? Anya coldly snorted. I really regret not killing you directly on the transit planet. Xiaoling Yu said indifferently. His eyes were already narrowed, and there was obvious killing intent in his words. Then you'll have to be able to kill me first. Anya said ungratefully. Fairy Anya, why waste time talking nonsense with this devil-sex scoundrel? Isn't it better to just kill him? A Mahayana stage human cultivator said. Let's do it. I'll be in charge of restraining him, and you guys will be in charge of setting up the Dark Seal formation. Anya nodded and then looked at the 3 Mahayana stage masters of the Black Dragon clan. They won't help this scoundrel, right? Fairy, don't worry. Although this is the Black Dragon Bay, it's also the territory of the Darkness Continent. They'll still have to give us some face. The Mahayana stage human cultivator said with certainty. Anya didn't think too much about it. She looked at Xiaoling Yu's calm and fearless appearance, and she was angry. After shouting die, scoundrel, she unsheathed her immortal sword and attacked Xiaoling Yu. On this island, Xiaoling Yu's speed couldn't be raised at all, so it was naturally impossible for her to escape. The only thing she could do now was to fight to have a chance to get away. With a thought, the icy soul heavenly silkworm appeared from Xiaoling Yu's dantian and immediately caused the surrounding temperature to drop rapidly. At the same time, there were countless seemingly slender, snow-white tentacles that bloomed like chrysanthemums, spreading in all directions. Gusts of cold wind with color also swept in all directions. Xiao Yu, on the other hand, wielded the phoenix feather and swept it towards Anya, sending out waves of fire. Those human cultivators were very obedient to Anya's words. They didn't come up to help Anya, but stayed far away and formed a circle surrounding Anya and Xiao Yu. Then, each of them took out a black array flag and threw it into the void. Then, they began to silently recite incantations and perform hand seals. Anya's strength with the immortal sword was slightly stronger than Xiao Yu with the phoenix feather. After all, she had cultivated for a much longer time than Xiao Yu, so her cultivation foundation was more solid. She was more proficient in controlling her own strength, and she was more in sync with her immortal sword. However, if Xiao Yu had the icy soul heavenly silkworm, then Anya wouldn't be able to defeat her. Although the icy soul heavenly silkworm's tentacles couldn't block the sharp attack of the immortal sword itself, they could easily block the sword radiance from the immortal sword. Moreover, they could also easily break Anya's sword momentum. Not only did it prevent Anya from releasing her ultimate move, but it also prevented Anya from touching Xiao Yu. Xiao Yu also looked at those cultivators who were obviously setting up the array. The phoenix feather in his hand kept releasing waves of fire. However, if he used all his strength to activate the phoenix feather, he wouldn't be able to control the sword essence remaining in his body. This also made him very uncomfortable, as if there was a fishbone stuck in his throat, and he couldn't increase his combat strength to the maximum. The hot waves of fire swept out, but they were blocked by the 3 human cultivators in the Mahayana realm, and they couldn't destroy the foundation of the array. Anya, who had been bound by the icy soul heavenly silkworm once, didn't give the icy soul heavenly silkworm the same chance. Her figure moved very quickly, and her immortal sword never left her hand, not giving those snow-white tentacles a chance to surround her. Just like that, Xiao Yu and Anya were in a stalemate. However, Anya wasn't anxious at all, while Xiao Yu was burning with anxiety. From the dense, dark aura that was released continuously after the array flags expanded, and the space that was gradually fluctuating, it could be seen that the array they were setting up was definitely not simple. However, there was no other way. The various methods of the icy soul heavenly silkworm couldn't do anything to Anya, who was holding the immortal sword. Moreover, Anya had been chasing after Xiao Yu, so that Xiao Yu couldn't find the time to deal with those cultivators who were setting up the array. Finally, the 8 tribulation passing stage and the 3 Mahayana realm experts set up the Dark Seal array. The battlefield where Xiao Yu and Anya were was immediately filled with dense, dark energy. The space they were in also fluctuated violently, so they could only stand still and use their own skills to maintain the stability of the space around them. Chapter 70. Outside the Dark Seal, the 3 human cultivators and the 3 Black Flood Dragon Clan Grand Ascension Stage cultivators all gathered together. Emole asked curiously, "That little girl, just now, was she really pretending to be a disciple of the 8-Pole Sword Sect? Could there be a mistake? Her cultivation in the Sword Tao has already attained the enlightened sword heart. Moreover, the fluctuations of her sword insight really do possess the aura of a sword cultivator. It doesn't seem fake no matter how I look at it." Haha, there's no mistake. The 5th Elder of the main hall has already asked the 8-Pole Sword Sect. They said that there's no tribulation passing stage female cultivator called Anya in the 8-Pole Sword Sect. Even the entire 8-Pole Sword Sect doesn't have a female cultivator who can reach the Sword Heart Illumination stage. Therefore, this girl definitely isn't from the 8-Pole Sword Sect. The human Grand Ascension Stage cultivator said with a smile, "It's good that it's confirmed. Don't provoke those arrogant donkeys. If they get angry, the entire Darkness Continent will be in trouble." Emole nodded and said, Even the Black Flood Dragon Clan cultivators, who rarely left the Black Dragon Bane, knew that the Eight Poles Sword sect was definitely the most untouchable existence in the entire cultivation world. There weren't many disciples in the Eight Poles Sword sect, but they were extremely united. Moreover, the elders of the Eight Poles Sword sect were extremely protective of their young. As long as someone dared to touch their young disciples or bully the weak, they would go to the door and cause chaos. Your Dark Seal formation is really powerful. I can see that both of them have immortal items, and their battle prowess is comparable to that of a 3 Tribulation Loose Immortal. You only used a few Tribulation Passing Stage cultivators to set up this formation, but you were able to seal these 2 experts. Mo Gang exclaimed in admiration as he looked at the area surrounded by rolling black fog. This is nothing. If the elders of the main hall personally set up the Dark Seal formation together, then it would be really powerful. It said that even if a true immortal from the upper realm descended, it would still be trapped for a while. In the cultivation world, absolutely no one can break it. A Grand Ascension stage human expert said proudly. Haha, no one can break it, right? What if a 9th Tribulation expert comes? Mole asked with a hollow laugh. A 9 Tribulations expert. Even in the cultivation world, it's very rare. This kind of expert won't come out easily. If they pass the last tribulation and ascend to the immortal realm, it's really like a snake turning into a dragon. A human cultivator in the Mahayana stage said. However, both of them are protected by immortal artifacts. This great dark sealing array of yours can only trap them. It will be very difficult to kill them off. What do you plan to do next? You can't keep maintaining this great array in my clan's forbidden zone, right? Mo Gang asked, pointing at the great array. Hee, fellow cultivators of the Black Dragon Bay, you can rest assured. When the powerhouses of our main hall arrive, we will remove the formation and get rid of these 2 people to return peace to the Black Dragon Bay. The great vehicle stage cultivator of the human clan said with a smile. That's nothing, but these 2 people have 2 immortal artifacts. They were caught in our Black Dragon Bay. Black Dragon Bay should have one of those 2 immortal artifacts, right? Mole asked bluntly. Of course, it depends on what the higher-ups say. We, the errand boys, can't decide. I believe the main hall will discuss it with the Great Elder Clan. The human cultivator in the Mahayana stage replied. Xiao Lingyu, who was trapped in the Great Array, could only rely on the power of the Phoenix Feather to resist the effect of the array. However, she could only barely maintain it. It was impossible for her to counterattack the Great Array. Even the icy soul Heavenly Silkworm had shrunk into a ball and was quietly floating beside Xiao Lingyu. As for Anya, she kept waving the immortal sword in her hand, creating a thick circle of sword energy to protect her body. She also looked powerless to resist. Great. Now you've gotten yourself involved, haven't you? Xiao Lingyu seemed to be taking pleasure in his misfortune. Anya rolled her eyes at Xiao Lingyu. She only snorted coldly and didn't say anything. Actually, she had guessed that the native cultivators of the Darkness Continent might have asked the Eight Poles Sword sect. She was indeed too careless. Is there any way to break this formation? If you need my help, just ask, Xiao Lingyu said in a righteous manner. This is the Dark Seal formation. Although it was set up by 8 Tribulation Stage experts, if we want to break it with our strength, unless you immediately become an expert comparable to a 4 Tribulation Scattered Immortal, where you can release the strongest power of your immortal artifact. Anya felt regretful, so her expression was a little gloomy. Is there no other way? Xiao Lingyu asked, unwilling to give up. There are other ways, but they're useless to us. The reason why the Great Dark Trapping Formation is so powerful is because the formation flags used to set up the formation contain a very dense amount of dark origin energy. The quality of this dark origin energy is even stronger than immortal energy. It has a very strong corrosive and offensive power. If we don't have immortal equipment to protect our bodies, then our bodies, yuanying, and even our souls will be darkened. Therefore, we can only use immortal equipment to protect ourselves from the corrosion of the dark origin energy for the time being. Luckily, they only set up 8 Tribulation Stage cultivators. If there were 8 great vehicle stage or 3 tribulations scattered immortals, then even with immortal artifacts, we wouldn't be able to hold on for long. Anya shook her head and explained, "Don't say these useless things. Just tell us how to break the formation." Xiao Lingyu said impatiently, "To break this formation, we must have the ability to not be afraid of the dark origin energy. Then we can let loose and continuously attack with immortal artifacts. The foundation of this formation is definitely not at the immortal artifact level. It definitely won't be able to withstand the immortal artifacts for a long time. But how do we have the ability to not be afraid of the dark origin energy?" Anya said gloomily. Speaking of the origin energy, Xiao Lingyu first thought of the ice marrow. Because it was a type of ice origin energy, the slightest bit of its aura could create those extremely powerful colored ice winds. It could create a vast ice world. Although the ice marrow was in the icy soul heavenly silkworm's body, the icy soul heavenly silkworm didn't have the time to absorb and refine it. Of course, the origin energy that Anya mentioned wasn't the origin energy of the entire universe. It was only a type of origin energy in the cultivation world. If the cultivation world's origin energy was placed in the immortal world, then it wouldn't be too valuable. It was like immortal stones, immortal pills, and immortal artifacts. Everyone in the cultivation world scrambled for them, but in the immortal world, they were rare and ordinary things. Immediately after, Xiao Lingyu thought of his own chaos energy. Chaos energy existed in all worlds, and they were all different in quality. The chaos energy that he absorbed and cultivated in the cultivation world also had to constantly improve. Then, when it reached the chaos convergence period, it would be comparable to the chaos energy in the immortal world. But even so, when the chaos energy in the cultivation world was raised to the limit, it would still be much stronger than the various types of origin energy. The reason why the chaos energy in Xiao Lingyu's body didn't show too much power was actually because he improved too quickly. He had always relied on the wisp of chaos energy in his body to transform spiritual power. He didn't carefully refine, familiarize, or compress his chaos energy. I have to work harder in this area in the future. The improvement of the chaos energy's quality is the focus of my cultivation. If I keep pursuing the improvement of my cultivation and realm and give up on improving the chaos energy's quality, then I'm really neglecting the essentials. With the powerful chaos energy, I can go anywhere in the cultivation world. Who in the cultivation world can do anything to me? Even if I don't have an immortal artifact, even if I don't have a powerful pet like the icy soul heavenly silkworm, I'm still very powerful. Xiao Lingyu suddenly realized, but he didn't regret it. If he didn't work hard to improve his cultivation and realm and only pursued the chaos energy's quality, he probably would have died many times over. No matter what, it's true that I have the chaos energy. The chaos energy is the source of all types of origin energy. I don't believe that the darkness origin energy can corrode the chaos energy. Xiao Lingyu decided to take a gamble. Anyway, he wouldn't have a good ending if he didn't take the risk. He said to Anya, "If I break this formation and save you this time, how are you going to repay me?" Anya rolled her eyes at Xiao Lingyu and said, "If you can break this formation, I won't blame you for kissing me." Xiao Lingyu snorted in disdain and said, "This is a life-saving grace. Even if you don't want to repay me with your body, you can't be so perfunctory, right?" Hearing the words, "repay me with my body," Anya frowned slightly. However, she only thought that Xiao Lingyu was boasting or joking, so she replied, "If you can break this formation, I'll repay you with my body." "You said it. I didn't force you. Don't go back on your words when the time comes," Xiao Lingyu said seriously. In fact, he didn't take this seriously. After all, it was uncertain whether he could break the formation or not. Even if he could, he didn't want to marry such a cold and violent woman. Moreover, he had a girlfriend and he was a monogamist. If you die because of breaking the formation, don't blame me for not reminding you. This formation isn't something that we can break. Anya didn't answer his question directly. Instead, she continued to remind him. At this point, Anya didn't have any ideas. She really hoped that Shaolin Yu could break the formation, so she didn't make a promise. She wanted to leave some leeway for herself. Even if I die, I won't be lonely with you accompanying me on the road to the underworld. Shaolin Yu laughed dryly. Then, he stopped the phoenix feather from protecting his body and began to pour his power into the phoenix feather, preparing to counterattack the formation. What road to the underworld? Anya asked in a low voice, puzzled. Shaolin Yu didn't have time to answer Anya's question. After he removed the phoenix feather's defense, the rolling dark origin energy immediately rushed over like a pack of hungry wolves that saw a big white rabbit. However, it was blocked by the chaotic energy barrier that Shaolin Yu set up. It can really block it? Anya couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Chapter 71. Arc. Shaolin Yu immediately felt excruciating pain as the dark origin energy invaded his body. He could not help but groan in pain. He was not in a hurry to counterattack. Instead, he sensed the situation in his body. Just as Anya had said, the dark origin energy was extremely corrosive and aggressive. As soon as it entered Shaolin Yu's body, it began to tear at Shaolin Yu's tendons and destroyed Shaolin Yu's flesh and blood. It then rushed toward his dantian. Shaolin Yu still did not do anything. He waited for the dark origin energy to invade his dantian before the chaotic nascent soul spat out a stream of primordial fire to counterattack. The primordial fire was much more powerful than the chaotic energy in Shaolin Yu's body. It directly swept away the dark origin energy that had invaded his dantian. Then, the wisp of chaos essence hidden in the nascent soul was spat out by the nascent soul. The wisp of chaos essence quickly circulated around Shaolin Yu's body, and like snow melting in the spring, it cleared away all the origin of darkness energy. The chaotic essence was the source of all types of origin energy. Even though there was only one strand, it was extremely powerful. This strand of chaotic essence then surged out and formed a hazy halo around Shaolin Yu's body. It seemed weak and insubstantial, but was enough to keep the dark origin energy away. At this moment, Shaolin Yu finally relaxed. Anya, on the other hand, was stunned. However, although the chaotic essence was powerful, Shaolin Yu was not willing to use it unless he had no other choice. This was because if he lost this strand of chaotic essence, he would no longer be able to absorb the spiritual energy in the spirit stones to transform it into chaotic energy. Now that the chaotic essence could help him, Shaolin Yu did not have to hide his strength anymore. What made Shaolin Yu depressed was that even though the chaotic essence of the sword was still inside his body, even after the chaos essence swept through his body, it did not immediately remove Anya's sword origin energy. Logically speaking, Anya's sword origin energy was not as strong as the darkness origin energy. It should be even weaker in front of the chaos essence. What Shaolin Yu didn't know was that chaos essence chi had a very obvious suppressive effect on origin energy. This was mainly because origin energy was formed naturally in the universe, but sword elemental energy wasn't a natural energy. Instead, it was a special energy that sword cultivators had obtained through hard work and cultivation. Sword elemental energy was actually created by sword cultivators. It originally didn't exist in the vast universe, so chaos essence chi didn't have an obvious suppressive effect on it. Damn formation! Break for me! Shaolin Yu roared and waved the phoenix feather in her hand with all her might, sending out 3 scorching waves of fire. Boom! 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 Continuous explosions reverberated in the space filled with rolling black fog. The darkness origin energy in all directions suddenly converged towards the spot where Shaolin Yu had attacked. Quickly, attack in the opposite direction. Anya reminded from the side. Shaolin Yu also saw that the darkness origin energy had dispelled the waves of fire that he had sent out, but it had also weakened the defense of other areas. However, just as he was about to attack in the opposite direction, The remaining sword elemental energy in his body began to go haywire because most of Xiao Lingyu's power had flowed towards the phoenix feather. Although Xiao Lingyu waved the phoenix feather again, unfortunately, the scorching waves of fire did not appear. Instead, he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. "What's wrong with you? You can't slack off at such a crucial time," Anya said anxiously. "What's wrong? Isn't it all because of you? Quickly retract your sword elemental energy." Xiao Lingyu shouted at Anya in annoyance. I'm sorry. I forgot about that." Anya first apologized embarrassedly, then waved her hand to retract the small waves of sword elemental energy. Without the sword elemental energy causing trouble, Xiao Lingyu's physical injuries had automatically healed in an instant. Then, he attacked again to break the formation. However, activating the phoenix feather required a lot of power. Even with Xiao Lingyu's current level, it was impossible for him to make the phoenix feather attack 15 times in a row. After trying to attack from both sides 7 or 8 times in a row, although the formation was on the verge of collapse, it still trapped the two of them. "Bing Bing, release your frost essence to help you defend. Then attack with me." Xiao Lingyu ordered the Frosty Soul Heavenly Silkworm. The Frosty Soul Heavenly Silkworm had always been very obedient. It was the same this time. It directly spat out the frost essence. Then, the colorful cold wind wreaked havoc in the space. However, the cold wind was controlled by the Frosty Soul Heavenly Silkworm and would not attack Xiao Lingyu and Anya. The appearance of the frost essence also quickly weakened the power of the darkness origin energy by half. The darkness origin energy in those formation flags was definitely not as dense as the frost origin energy in such a large piece of frost essence. If the Frosty Soul Heavenly Silkworm was able to refine the frost essence, just this piece of frost essence alone could easily destroy the formation. With the formation's power reduced by half, Anya was also freed. She also began to attack the formation. Under such a fierce attack, the Dark Seal formation lasted for less than 20 breaths of time before collapsing. The 8 Tribulation Passing Stage cultivators who set up this formation also died with the formation. The strong impact from all kinds of origin energy was not something they could withstand. Only the 6 Deshang stage powerhouses of the two clans dodged to the side in time and did not suffer any injuries. However, their faces were very ugly at this time, because after the formation was destroyed, Xiao Lingyu and Anya appeared in front of them and scathed. "You actually set a trap for me. This is unforgivable." Anya once again faced the 3 Deshang stage powerhouses. She seemed very resentful. Holding her immortal sword, she charged over. This woman is really a tigress. She always yells about killing. This is their territory. If I don't run now, when will I run? After Xiao Lingyu complained in her heart, she rushed to the shore without thinking. The 3 powerhouses of the human race needed to join forces to deal with Anya, and the 3 Deshang stage black dragons saw the phoenix feather in Xiao Lingyu's hand and the Frosty Soul Heavenly Silkworm behind her. They did not dare to stop Xiao Lingyu. This place was not far from the coast. After Xiao Lingyu's figure flashed a few times, he had already arrived above the Black Sea. However, at this time, a black light flew from the front. At the same time, it carried a majestic aura. It actually stirred up stormy waves on the surface of the sea. That black light arrived in front of Xiao Lingyu in a moment. Xiao Lingyu saw clearly that it was a human cultivator who was flying towards her. However, his cultivation was definitely above the Deshang stage. In the blink of an eye, that powerhouse arrived in front of Xiao Lingyu. He stretched out his hand and slapped towards Xiao Lingyu's chest. The opponent's speed was really too fast. Moreover, Xiao Lingyu had used up most of his strength to break the formation. At this time, he could only brace himself and use the phoenix feather in his hand to resist. The Frosty Soul Heavenly Silkworm had just reacted and was about to help its master, but its master's body had already collided with it and flew towards the center of the island. Xiao Lingyu knew that the cultivator who attacked him was definitely above the level of a 3 Tribulation scattered immortal. Even if he was in his peak state, he wouldn't be able to defeat him. Therefore, he used the opponent's attack to increase his speed and escape towards the center of the island. Just now, the cultivator's palm had only hit the immortal artifact, the phoenix feather. Xiao Lingyu's body had only suffered a huge force, which was why he had been sent flying like a cannonball. Moreover, that huge force had not been able to hurt his body, which was comparable to a mid-grade spirit artifact. What made Xiao Lingyu speechless was that Anya thought that Xiao Lingyu had suffered a huge blow and actually took the initiative to help him. She pulled Xiao Lingyu's body from flying back to standing steadily. "Are you okay?" Anya asked kindly. After all, Xiao Lingyu had just saved her life. After all, in such a dangerous place, she also needed a comrade like Xiao Lingyu to overcome the difficulties together. "Originally, I was fine, but after being intercepted by you, I'm afraid that something will happen. We're the 3 great ascension stage experts." Xiao Lingyu first replied sullenly and then asked, "Did it stop him out of kindness?" Xiao Lingyu couldn't just randomly scold them. "They're already dead." Anya replied indifferently. "Awesome." Xiao Lingyu gave Anya a thumbs up and praised her in his hometown language. In such a short time, she killed 3 great ascension stage cultivators. Even a 3 tribulation scattered immortal wouldn't be able to do that. However, when he thought about how he was able to make the great elder of the dragon's subduing valley helpless on the Feiyu continent, Xiao Lingyu felt relieved. The cultivator who just gave Xiao Lingyu a slap first looked around and then asked coldly, "A thief from the Black Blood Demon and a girl who pretended to be a disciple of the 8-Pole Sword sect. You really have guts. Not only did you barge into our darkness continent, you even dared to kill our great ascension stage experts. Do you think that the darkness continent is a place where no one can enter? This is just a beautiful misunderstanding. So what if we killed them?" Xiao Lingyu and Anya responded one after the other, but their tones were completely different. Xiao Lingyu wanted to say a few more words to earn more time for herself to recover, so she didn't act too tough. However, Anya had just killed 3 great ascension stage experts and was feeling proud and arrogant. Moreover, there was no such thing as fear in the dictionary of sword cultivators. When they encountered enemies, they would fearlessly charge forward and fight to the end. Therefore, Anya's attitude wasn't kind. "Since you killed them, then pay with your life. They would have gone to the immortal realm soon, so they shouldn't have died here. You have to take responsibility for this." After saying that, the aura emanating from the cultivator's body swelled wildly. Next, he gently raised both his arms, and the space within a radius of 10,000 meters churned. Additionally, streams of dark energy converged from all directions to form black iron chains that swayed in accordance with the fluctuations in the air. "Not good, it's the dark chain prison. This old man is a 4 tribulation scattered immortal." Anya obviously recognized the black chains and said in shock, "Damn, you just found out? I just saw that he was a 4 tribulation scattered immortal." Xiao Lingyu said in her heart. Chapter 72. Let's kill our way out. Anya was anxious. She slashed at one of the chains with her immortal sword. The white sword radiance was so sharp that it cut the chain in half. The black chain was made of dark energy and was not made of metal. Therefore, it could not withstand the attack of the immortal sword. Anya was surprised by the cultivation level of the immortal sword, not the power of the dark chain prison. Just now, Xiao Lingyu had already used up most of his power in order to break open the Great Dark Seal formation. At this moment, he no longer had the strength to urge the phoenix feather to release the scorching heat wave. Moreover, he had also put away the phoenix feather, relying on the cool energy of the emerald immortal pearl to protect his body. However, at this moment, the silver moon broken blade that Jiang Lanhua left behind was in his hand. Any iron chain that approached Xiao Lingyu's body would be directly cut off by Xiao Lingyu. Although the countless iron chains shrunk towards the center, they were cut into pieces by the immortal sword and silver moon saber in just a few moments. Anya and Xiao Lingyu were able to escape from the dark chain prison and run toward the center of the island. "You want to escape? Humph, it's not that easy." The four tribulations scattered celestial would not let Xiao Yu and Anya go. He turned into a black light and chased after them. I'll stop him. You run away first. The four tribulation scattered celestial was so fast that he caught up with them in the blink of an eye. And you knew that the two of them wouldn't be able to escape. So she stopped with her immortal sword after saying those words. You're a good friend, Xiao Yu replied in a strange tone. Then, she cooperated with Anya and continued to run away. Xiao Yu had used up a lot of his energy and could not continue to fight. He was happy to let Anya cover for him. As for whether Anya could escape unscathed, Xiao Yu did not have time to think about it. However, to Xiao Yu's surprise, Anya was defeated by the four tribulation Lu Celestial after he had traveled less than 10,000 meters. She flew back like an arrow and caught up with Xiao Yu. Xiao Yu instinctively caught Anya and wrapped her arms around her waist. No, I'm no match for him, Anya said to Xiao Yu with blood dripping from the corner of her mouth. I already knew that, Xiao Yu replied. Use the icy soul heavenly silkworm. It can hold on for a while, Anya suggested. No, the icy soul heavenly silkworm is no match for him. If we're not careful, our Bing Bing might die. Xiao Yu firmly refused. You're still thinking about your pet's safety. You might not even be able to save your own life, Anya said anxiously. Before Xiao Yu could say anything, countless chains surrounded them again. They were even faster than before. In less than a breath's time, Xiao Yu and Anya were tied together. If Xiao Yu was not slightly taller than Anya, his mouth would not be on Anya's forehead. It would be on Anya's blood-stained lips. Feeling Anya's soft body and her full breasts, as well as the faint fragrance from Anya's body, Xiao Yu felt a fire in his lower abdomen. He actually forgot to use the silver moon broken blade to cut the chains. Xiao Yu's reaction was slightly slower, but Anya was not. She quickly swung the sword in her hand. The sharp sword was invincible. Although they broke the dark chain prison again, the moment they got out, the four tribulation loose immortals' two palms hit their shoulders. Pooh! Pooh! The two of them spat out mouthfuls of blood one after the other, but they flew out together. Their bodies were like broken kites or drifting withered leaves. Two brats who don't know the immensity of heaven and earth, go die. The four tribulation loose immortals saw that the two were injured and showed a somewhat disdainful expression. He leaped forward and shot out two black light pillars from his palms. Although Xiao Yu and Anya had not yet stabilized their bodies, they were still able to defend themselves. They held the phoenix feather and the immortal sword in front of them, and each took the black light pillar head-on. The black light pillar was formed by the power of the four tribulation loose immortal. Of course, its attack power could not do anything to the immortal weapons. However, the powerful impact made Xiao Yu and Anya's bodies move back faster. At the same time, it also created a huge force that entered their bodies. Although Xiao Yu had yet to recover his cultivation, the quality of his body was relatively high, so he was still able to withstand the huge force that entered his body. On the other hand, Anya's injuries had worsened, and her face was deathly pale. Let's see how long you can hold on. The four tribulation loose immortal was also very afraid of the immortal weapons in their hands. Therefore, he did not dare to get close to them. He only used his own power to condense magic arts to attack. Beams of black light continuously shot towards Xiao Yu and Anya, who were barely able to defend themselves. Their bodies kept floating in the air. If it were not for the protection of the immortal weapons, they would have been killed. A four tribulation loose immortal was much more powerful than a three tribulation loose immortal. Although the two of them were not afraid of a three tribulation loose immortal, there was still a big gap between them and a four tribulation loose immortal. In particular, they had consumed a lot of energy to break the formation just now. Bang! Bang! The two of them were sent flying again. However, they bumped into a powerful formation and bounced back. This place was the center of the island. It was also the forbidden area of the Black Water Dragon clan, the Black Dragon Tomb. Quickly hide inside, Anya said to Xiao Yu. Then, she waved her immortal sword and cut open the restriction outside the valley. Then, she jumped into the formation. Shaolin Yu doesn't hesitate either. Using the little bit of power he just recovered, he activates the phoenix feather to give the fourth tribulation, loose immortal, a scorching wave of fire. Then he turns around and follows Inya into the formation. The fourth tribulation, loose immortal, waved his hand and shot out a beam of black light to block the hot immortal. However, he frowned. The two of them had immortal artifacts. If he was at the fifth tribulation realm, he could easily kill them without fear. However, he was only at the fourth tribulation realm, so the gap between him and the two of them was not big. The two of them also had immortal artifacts, so he could not kill them quickly. He could only use his magic attacks to kill them bit by bit. If he were to attack regardless of the cost, it wasn't that he didn't have the ability to take down the two of them quickly. However, the Darkness Continent was still under threat from external enemies, and he didn't dare to take the risk easily. He did not expect that the two of them, who were about to be killed by him, would sneak into the Black Dragon tomb. This was the forbidden area of the Black Dragon clan. Even the four tribulation, loose immortal, did not dare to set foot inside. After all, the Black Dragon Bay was guarded by a fifth tribulation realm expert. The formation here is very powerful. Even if they have immortal weapons, they won't be able to hold on for too long. Moreover, the experts of the Black Dragon clan won't just sit and watch someone break into their forbidden area. We could just wait here. The four tribulation, loose immortal squinted his eyes and observed for a while. Then, he smiled and said to himself, sure enough, not long after, the formation that enveloped the entire valley began to shake violently. Then, a series of explosions came from inside. Then, three great Ascension Realm cultivators of the Black Dragon clan rushed over. There was also a four tribulation, loose demon Black Dragon. Utopia, our Black Flood Dragon clan has already given you a lot of face by allowing you to enter the Black Dragon Bay to search for someone. But you actually forced them into the forbidden area of our Black Flood Dragon clan. Isn't this a bit unkind? The fourth tribulation, loose demon, looked at the unceasingly shaking great formation and said unhappily, Brother Mo Shang, don't misunderstand. They deliberately hid inside. I didn't mean to force them inside. These two bastards aren't weak. I also try my best to kill them quickly. Unfortunately, the heavens didn't follow my wishes. In the end, I still let them hide inside. However, before they entered, they were already seriously injured. I don't think they will be able to cause any damage to the formation. Of course, if this matter causes any losses to the fellow Taoists of the Black Dragon Bay, the main hall will compensate us afterwards. The four tribulation, loose, immortal Utopia said very sincerely. This time around, don't use some insignificant darkness origin energy to fool us. If you don't give us a satisfactory explanation, we, the Black Dragon Bay, will no longer provide any support the next time there's a battle in the Darkness Continent. At worst, the Darkness Continent will fall into enemy hands, and we will go to the Azure Dragon Continent. I believe the dragons will still take us in. The four tribulation, loose demon Mo Shang said somewhat threateningly. Brother Mo Shang, don't worry. Our two clans have cooperated for many years. How can we become unhappy over such a small matter? Although the Azure Dragon Continent is good, it is the territory of the true dragons. If you go there, you will be restrained. How can it compare to the Darkness Continent that is rich in darkness source energy? Utopia responded very calmly. The experts of the two races had said the same thing countless times. Everyone knew each other very well, so there was no point in competing with each other. Just as Mo Shang was about to reply, he saw that the formation that was shaking violently suddenly quieted down. The formation didn't suffer any damage. It should continue to kill the enemy. What's going on? Don't tell me they passed through the formation and enter the valley? Utopia asked in astonishment. That won't happen. Before the formation is broken, only a body integration stage cultivator from our Flood Dragon clan would be able to pass through the formation and enter the valley. However, the two of them aren't from the Flood Dragon clan. Either they've broken the formation, or they've already died inside. Otherwise, they'll definitely continue to be attacked by the formation. Mo Shang said with certainty. If that's the case, they should have died inside? Utopia asked. To be honest, he felt that this shouldn't be the case. The two of them weren't weak. Moreover, their injuries weren't very serious. How could they, who were holding immortal artifacts, die after entering the formation for a while? This supreme-grade formation couldn't be so powerful, right? They most likely died inside. The formation here was personally set up by the Great Elder. They actually dared to barge in. They are really courting death. Mo Shang nodded and said, Then let's go in and take a look. Utopia suggested. Hee, you can't go in. As long as you're not a dragon cultivator, you will definitely be attacked after entering. Even I can't change this characteristic of the formation. Mo Shang shook his head and laughed. Utopia frowned. He couldn't go in. If the two of them really died inside, wouldn't the immortal artifacts in their hands belong to the Black Flood Dragon clan? Chapter 73. Then, I'll have a taste of your clan's great elder's skill in setting up a formation, Utopia said after thinking for a while. Brother Wu, you can enter if you want. However, you can only enter the formation and not the valley. That's our clan's forbidden area. Only our clan's cultivators can enter, Mo Shang said with a smile. Of course, since the two of them have already died in the formation, why should I enter the valley? Utopia nodded in response. You guys guard outside. Don't let any other cultivators in. Also, you have to be wary of the two people inside suddenly rushing out. Mo Shang instructed the 3 great vehicle stage Black Flood Dragons. Yes, Second Elder. The 3 great vehicle stage Black Flood Dragons replied respectfully at the same time. Then, Utopia followed Mo Shang into the formation and began to search for Xiaoling Yu and Anya's traces. However, the 2 4 tribulation stage cultivators did not expect that Xiaoling Yu and Anya had already passed through the formation and entered the valley. When the two of them first entered the formation, they were indeed constantly attacked by the formation. However, Anya soon discovered a clue about the formation and asked Xiaoling Yu if he had a pet with the bloodline of a true dragon. Upon hearing this, Xiaoling Yu released the huge snake. After the huge snake came out, it only leaked a little of the aura of a true dragon, and the formation would not attack it. Then, it used its body to wrap around Xiaoling Yu and Anya, protecting them as they passed through the formation safely and entered the valley. There was no danger in the valley, but the scene was shocking. In this small valley, the dark energy was very dense. The entire valley was filled with rolling black fog. Moreover, the fog would condense into liquid form and drip down from time to time, causing the ground of the valley to be covered with a layer of black water, forming a large swamp. Because the fog was too dense, Xiaoling Yu and Anya's vision and spiritual sense were greatly restricted. They could not see the situation around them clearly. The aura here is really uncomfortable, Anya said with a frown. Is that so? Xiaoling Yu did not feel uncomfortable. The dark energy here did not affect him much. Since it was a graveyard, it was inevitable that there would be some strange and eerie places. On the other hand, the big snake seemed to be very obedient after it entered the place. It kept looking around timidly, just like a thief who was stealing. What is this? After walking for a while, Anya suddenly pointed to the right and asked in surprise. Xiaoling Yu looked over and saw a black skeleton. Out of curiosity, he mustered up his courage to take a closer look. What he saw just now was only a part of the skeleton. It was in the shape of a cylinder lying horizontally, with a very thick spine connecting slightly thinner semicircular ribs extending to the left and right. This should be the skeleton of a black flood dragon. I wonder what cultivation level this black flood dragon had when it was alive. Xiaoling Yu asked. Judging from the width of this skeleton, it's at least at the tribulation passing stage. This really is the place where the black Jiao dragon was buried. Anya replied. Let's go ahead and see if the Dragon Ball is still there. Xiaoling Yu smiled and walked forward. Anya frowned and shook her head. She followed Xiaoling Yu and said, This black Jiao dragon is already dead. Even if we're forced here, it's better not to touch its skeleton. Since he's already dead, instead of leaving his bones to be eroded by the passage of time, it's better to let us earn some benefits. It's worth it. Xiao Lingyu held the opposite opinion and said with conviction, do whatever you want. But if you anger the black Jiao Dragon clan because of this, you'll have to take full responsibility. Their great elder is a five tribulation cultivator. Anya said, do you think the black Jiao Dragon clan will be nice to us? Even if we stay here obediently and don't touch anything, they'll still kill us together with those human cultivators from the Darkness Continent. Xiao Lingyu said as he walked. Anya didn't say anything more. She wouldn't touch other people's skeletons, especially those she didn't have any enmity with. Soon, the two arrived at the dragon's head. Xiao Lingyu was happy that the dragon's head was intact, and there were dragon soul waves inside. Xiao Lingyu said to Anya, lend me your sword and help me split open this dragon's skull. My sword isn't used for such despicable things. Anya refused without giving face. Tisk, it's just a broken sword. Forget it. Xiao Lingyu took out the silver moon broken blade and lightly sliced the dragon's skull. The hard as iron dragon's skull was split in half. Your blade is so powerful. Anya squinted her eyes and praised. Even her immortal sword wouldn't be able to cut open the black dragon's skull so easily. It's just so. Xiao Lingyu said modestly. Then, she sliced the dragon's skull a few more times. Ah, the Dragon Ball is still here. Devourer of Heaven, what are you waiting for? This Dragon Ball is yours. The dragon's skull was completely broken, revealing a black dragon ball the size of a basketball. The snake was stunned. However, Xiao Lingyu knocked on its head and reminded it. The snake was hesitant at first. Then, as if it was going to throw caution to the wind, it swallowed the Dragon Ball. Let's go to other places. There must be a lot of dragon bones and Dragon Balls here. Xiao Lingyu was very happy at this moment. Don't go overboard. I advise you to quickly recover your strength. Anya felt that Xiao Lingyu was a little greedy. People often say that one shouldn't bother about trifles when doing big things. People also say that it's a crime not to take what the heavens give me. Xiao Lingyu started to find excuses for herself. While Xiao Lingyu was plundering the Dragon Balls in the valley, Wu Bang cursed loudly in the formation. That was because Mo Shang, who was originally with him, had suddenly disappeared in a flash. It was obvious that Mo Shang wanted to shake him off. Mo Shang was not in any danger in the formation. The formation would not attack him. He had more freedom and was faster. He would definitely find his target before Utopia. This was the reason why Utopia was cursing. If Mo Shang found the two people first, Utopia could forget about getting any benefits when the immortal artifact was in Mo Shang's hands. However, being angry was one thing. It was better to make the best use of his time to search. As for the attack of the formation, it was not very powerful for a fourth tribulation expert. It could only limit his speed and could not hurt him. After Mo Shang got rid of Wu Bang, he quickly searched through the entire array with his speed as a fourth tribulation expert. However, he was surprised to find that there were no traces of the two thieves in the array. After searching a few more times, he was certain that the two thieves were not in the array. Then he left the array and asked the three great vehicle stage cultivators about it. Knowing that the two bandits had not left the array, Mo Shang's heart immediately tensed up. He instructed the three Grand Ascension Stage cultivators, you must keep a close eye on the outside. Once you discover the two of them leaving the array, you must immediately intercept them. Also, call some men over and surround this island. After giving his instructions, Utopia entered the array formation again. After a careful search, he passed through the array formation and entered the valley. This was the graveyard of the Black Flood Dragon clan. Regardless of whether the Black Flood Dragons died of old age or by accident, they would all be buried here. It could be said that many ancestors of the Black Flood Dragon clan were resting here. If this place was destroyed or suffered any losses, Mo Shang and his generation of Black Flood Dragons would have sinned greatly. When Mo Shang saw that the skull of one of his ancestors had been hacked into pieces and the dragon pearl had been dug out, His face immediately turned as ugly as a pig's liver. "Thieves, I will pull out your tendons and skin you alive before burning your bones to ashes." Mo Shang roared angrily. Then he walked into the depths of the valley with a ruthless expression. At this moment, Xiao Yu and Anya had already searched more than half of the valley. They had obtained close to 20 dragon pearls. Although there were many black flood dragon skeletons here, some of them had been here for too long. The skeletons had already decayed, and the dragon pearls had already dissipated. Some of them had already lost their dragon pearls when they died. "It's about time. You should stop now," Anya said to Xiao Yu again. "And it's about time." Xiao Yu nodded her head in satisfaction. With just these dragon pearls, the huge snake could become a real flood dragon. It was only a step away from becoming a true dragon. Furthermore, the huge snake's cultivation would also reach the peak of the crossing tribulation late stage after absorbing too many dragon souls and dragon essences. If it could successfully pass through the heavenly tribulation, the huge snake could still continue to improve. However, it would not need so many dragon pearls to reach the crossing tribulation late stage. After Xiao Yu sent the huge snake into the spirit beast pouch and was about to stop and rest, Xiao Yu saw a small grass that looked like a dragon's claw in a low-lying area. "This is dragon soul grass?" Xiao Yu lowered her body to take a look and said in surprise. Anya also lowered her body to take a look. She nodded her head and said, "It looks like dragon soul grass. However, doesn't dragon soul grass only grow in places where true dragons live? The black flood dragon is not a true dragon. How could dragon soul grass grow here? Perhaps there are too many flood dragons buried here. The dragon souls that overflowed from their dragon pearls have eroded this land over the years, causing dragon soul grass to grow here." Xiao Yu speculated and analyzed. "That's still not right. According to the records, dragon soul grass can only grow in places where true dragons appear. Moreover, it has to be a true dragon that is very powerful and has a very high level of cultivation. No matter how many flood dragons there are, they can't be compared to a true dragon. If this spiritual grass is dragon soul grass, then it's too strange for it to be born. I think it's very likely that it's not dragon soul grass. It just looks like one." Anya shook her head and said, Even if it's not dragon soul grass, it must be a very good treasure. Let's harvest it first. If it's really dragon soul grass, I've made a fortune. I can save a lot of time and effort to search for it in the future." Xiao Yu said with a smile. Dragon soul grass was one of the materials that he had to prepare to break through the chaotic convergence stage. Chapter 74. Xiao Yu only managed to dig more than 200 feet deep. It was the root of the dragon soul grass that he had dug out. Just as Xiao Yu was about to extract the entire dragon soul herb from the muddy swamp, Anya suddenly exclaimed, "What's that?" Xiao Yu did not rush to take a look. Instead, she carefully coiled up the root of the dragon soul herb and put it into a jade box. Then she asked Anya, "What is it?" Anya did not reply. Instead, she used her power to form a light sword and started digging at the bottom of the pit. Xiao Yu put away the jade box and looked at it with curiosity on his face. As Anya dug with her light sword, a dark gold metal plate appeared at the bottom of the pit. It did not have the slightest luster or aura. There were strange patterns on the metal plate. It was about 2 fingers thick, about the size of a pot lid, and had an irregular shape. "What is this?" Xiao Yu asked with a frown. This thing that looked like a piece of metal didn't have any energy fluctuations. However, Xiao Yu's spiritual sense couldn't penetrate it, and he couldn't see anything. "I want to ask you the same question." Anya answered casually. Then, she used her immortal sword to gently scratch the metal plate. To Anya's surprise, even if she did not use her power, the immortal sword was so sharp that it could easily cut through any supreme-grade spiritual weapon. Could it be that this metal plate? Was this metal plate even harder than a supreme-grade spiritual weapon? The curiosity on Xiao Yu's face intensified. Anya then injected her power into the immortal sword. Then, she added some strength and made the immortal sword scratch the metal plate. However, it only left a white mark. After a while, the white mark disappeared. So strong, Anya frowned and said to Shaoling Yu, "Try it with your broken saber." "There's no need for that. This thing is obviously a treasure. It would be a pity if it was destroyed." Shaoling Yu waved her hand. "You mean your broken saber is more powerful than my immortal sword?" Anya squinted her eyes and asked, "Now is not the time to argue about this. We should first take this treasure and then think of a way to escape." Shaoling Yu shook her head and said, "Since the dragon soul grass is yours, this treasure will naturally be mine. Do you have any objections?" Anya asked. This treasure was obviously a very high-grade material for refining defensive Dharma treasures. It might even be able to be refined into an immortal weapon. Even without any treatment, its toughness was comparable to an ordinary immortal weapon. However, Shaoling Yu could not confirm that the stalk of grass was the dragon soul grass. In that case, Shaoling Yu was at a disadvantage. "This treasure is not small. You can't use it all by yourself. Why don't you share half with me?" Shaoling Yu took out the silver moon broken saber and suggested with a flattering smile. "Didn't you just say that it would be a pity if it was destroyed? Why did you change your mind all of a sudden?" Anya asked angrily. Shaoling Yu was embarrassed. She thought that she was indeed a little too greedy. After all, those dragon pearls belonged to her. It was also at this moment that the aura of an expert suddenly enveloped the two of them. Anya's reaction was slightly faster. She immediately put away the metal treasure and charged forward with her immortal sword. Shaoling Yu followed behind and held the phoenix feather in her hand. Just as the two of them flew up from the bottom of the crater, they saw an old man wearing black dragon scale armor with two small dragon horns on his head. His eyes were slightly narrowed, and he was silently chanting an incantation. His hands were constantly drawing mysterious patterns in front of his chest. "Thieves, you trespassed into our Black Flood Dragon clan's graveyard and dared to steal the dragon pearls of our clan's ancestors. You are unforgivable. Taste the torment of our Black Flood Dragon clan's poisonous flames." As Mo Shang finished speaking with a malevolent expression on his face, his hands suddenly came to a stop. In the next instant, he abruptly spread his arms apart, causing plumes of black smoke to surge out from his chest. Within the black smoke, there were flames sparkling with an eerie green light as they flew in all directions like ghosts. At the same time, the dark energy in the entire valley boiled and turned into a long black dragon baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. It rushed towards Shaoling Yu and Anya. The environment of this valley was very dangerous. There was only dense, dark energy, which was extremely unfavorable to Shaoling Yu and Anya. Furthermore, Mo Shang was a four-tribulation expert of the Black Flood Dragon clan. He was very familiar with this place. He also cultivated the dark energy. Therefore, he was able to make use of everything here. Fighting here was like a fish in water. Not good. There is poison in the fog and green flames. Anya waved her immortal sword to form a defensive barrier around her as she reminded Shaoling Yu. "Poison? I don't know if I can withstand it." Shaoling Yu frowned. The two of them could no longer see Mo Shang. Their spiritual senses were tightly restricted in their bodies. They could only rush to the side. However, no matter where they went, the long black dragon and green poisonous flames would gather in front of them, blocking their path and making it impossible for them to increase their speed. The black dragon continued to attack their defenses. The poison of the green flames was extremely potent. Whenever Nya's sword aura came into contact with the poisonous flames, a sizzling sound would be heard and a gash would appear on her sword aura. Shaoling Yu also had a body of poison. The poison in his body came from the snow centipede, which had the bloodline of an immortal beast. However, the Black Flood Dragon and all other flood dragons were not inferior to the bloodline of an immortal beast. Therefore, Shaoling Yu was not sure if his body of poison could withstand the poisonous flames released by the Black Flood Dragon. "This won't do. The poisonous gas here is too strong. We won't be able to withstand it for long. How much of your power have you recovered?" Anya asked Xiaoling Yu anxiously. Uh, only 20%, Xiaoling Yu replied. You bastard. Instead of working hard to recover your power, you were greedy for those Dragon Balls. Look at you now. Only 20% of your power. Let's see how you're going to withstand it. Anya scolded angrily. I was indeed careless. Why don't you rush out by yourself? Xiaoling Yu said sincerely. I do want to rush out by myself. However, I'm not their match. Only when the two of us work together and have two immortal weapons on our side can we succeed in escaping. Oh right, quickly release the icy soul heavenly silkworm. Its ice essence should be able to suppress the poisonous flames. Anya replied, let's give it a try. This icy soul heavenly silkworm has been suppressed for many years. Its ability is actually not very strong. Xiaoling Yu nodded. Then, the icy soul heavenly silkworm appeared. Its snow-white tentacles wrapped the ice essence and sent it between Xiaoling Yu and Anya. The cold air of the ice essence directly froze a large area of space. It had indeed greatly reduced the power of the black dragons and the green, poisonous flames. Ice essence. Haha, you have quite a lot of good stuff. However, you're definitely going to die today. Nothing can save you. Try this old man's poisonous flames boiling sky. Mo Shang's voice reverberated throughout the entire valley. Not only was the dark energy in the entire valley boiling, even the dark energy that was hidden deep underground was spewing out from the ground. In just a few moments, Xiaoling Yu and Anya's surroundings were completely surrounded by the green poisonous flames. Outside the poisonous flames, there were countless black dragons that were about to pounce. Not long after, the black dragons pounced into the poisonous flames, causing the color of the poisonous flames to deepen. It turned from green to dark green. The space where the dark green, poisonous flames were fluctuated violently. It was like boiling water. Xiaoling Yu and Anya, as well as the icy soul heavenly silkworm, were in this space. The ice essence's resistance to this level of poisonous flames seemed to be much weaker. Xiaoling Yu and Anya's defensive barrier was constantly shattering. The strong poison had already begun to invade their bodies. If this goes on, we're really going to die here. This old man is too powerful. Anya's head was drenched in cold sweat as she spoke anxiously. I know that too. Xiaoling Yu waved her phoenix feather as she spoke. Anya hesitated for a moment. Then, she took out a small jade bottle and poured out a milky white pill. She passed the pill to Xiaoling Yu and said, "This is a top-grade recovery pill. Consume it, and your cultivation will immediately return to its peak state." Xiaoling Yu took the pill, but did not consume it directly. "Don't worry, take it. If I kill you now, it won't do me any good." Anya seemed to have seen through Xiaoling Yu's thoughts and urged her. Xiaoling Yu thought about it and did not hesitate any longer. She immediately swallowed the extremely valuable cultivation return pill. Just as Anya had said, in just 2 breaths of time, Xiaoling Yu's cultivation had recovered to its peak. That top-grade cultivation return pill was indeed extraordinary. Not only did it contain a lot of energy, but this energy was also very easy to digest. The Chaos Nascent Soul only needed to swallow all the energy and then spit out the Chaos Force. For cultivators, a single cultivation recovery pill was equivalent to double the power of cultivators at the same cultivation level. It was a great item that could change the outcome of battle. It was no wonder that Anya hadn't used it yet, and was very hesitant when she had no choice but to use it. What a good pill! Xiaoling Yu, who had fully recovered her cultivation, could not help but praise. Next, Xiaoling Yu began to use all her strength to control the phoenix feather. She continuously released waves of fire. Waves of fire swept out, blocking and dispersing some of the poisonous flames. The icy soul heavenly silkworm also continuously released waves of cold wind, suppressing the poisonous flames in the surroundings. Anya naturally did not stay idle. While defending her body, she also used her sword art to counterattack. Under such a strong counterattack, the heaven-boiling poisonous flames was also under great pressure. After all, there were 2 immortal equipment and an immortal-grade ice essence here. At this moment, Mo Shang, who was using and maintaining the heaven-boiling poisonous flames, naturally consumed a lot of his cultivation. He did not expect that these two thieves would be so difficult to deal with. Furthermore, they had so many powerful techniques that he had to use all his strength to deal with them. So those two thieves were trapped here by brother Mo Shang. Now, they won't be able to escape. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.